Help me, Lord. Help me get over this loss.
I can't breathe.
Hey, I can't breathe. I'm so upset. I can't breathe. Stop. You knock on wood so they go to heaven. It's like a lucky. Hey, get the stick.
Yeah.
Hey, did you get the meat stick?
Yeah, I got it.
Hey, just hold tight for a second. They're moving the casket. Just hold tight.
Yeah, it's no worries. I got it.
What exactly is plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. 100% pure protein-packed power in a stick. I want Wenzel's Farm. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. What exactly is a meat substitute or plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. The kind you find at Wenzel's Farm and the only kind they use. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked right here in the heartland of America. Wenzel's Farm offers 14 flavors of mouth-watering protein-packed power in a stick, except no substitute. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. Looking for something to power your day? Then look no further than Wenzel's Farm Snack Sticks. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked, these protein-packed power sticks deliver truly sustainable energy. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. You work hard and play hard. You need real fuel to power your day. Not some tofu stuffed rice cake or plant-based meat substitute. No, you need honest-to-goodness, homegrown, protein-packed power in a stick. You need Wenzel's Farm. Quality cuts of meat handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked for a great-tasting snack that delivers real energy. Power up and put the smack down on whatever your day brings with Wenzel's Farm. Real meat for real life.
What do you make of this up here? Just showed up in the yard a couple days
Is a
ago.
dog been digging in here?
I don't think so, dude. That goes way down in there. Seriously, did you just lose your meat stick?
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's something in there, dude. Just leave it.
Are you kidding me?
We'll just head to the house. Just leave it.
The hell with that. Oh! Ah, yeah, there's something in there. Ah! Want one?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It was worth it.
Oh, man, this is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Hey, man, grab me a meat stick. I think I can reach it if I just a little more. Just let me go a little. I can't. Just a little more. I almost got it. Careful! Oh, God. No. Come on, just reach. Reach. Just grab my hand. Grab my hand.
Give me the meat stick. This other hand's closer. The one with the stick is... Oh! What am I supposed to say?
It doesn't matter. He's dead. He ain't listening to you anyway.
I'm hungry.
No. Put it away. I can't watch it. Oh, crap. Just reach in. You gotta pull it. Just grab it. Just take it out of his hand. What do you mean you can't?
He won't let go.
What do you mean you won't let go? He's dead.
Help me. Get in there. No, just hold on.
Make him let go of it. No, I got you. Just go in for a hug. Go and get on in there. It's a bad loss. Yeah, hug him up. Just reach, hug him up.
He's breathing.
Just reach. On the other side. Go.
I can't do it.
Help!
Help me, Lord. Help me get over this loss.
I can't breathe.
Hey, I can't breathe. I'm so upset. I can't breathe. Stop. You knock on wood so they go to heaven. It's like a lucky. Get the stick.
Yeah.
Hey, did you get the meat stick?
Yeah, I got it.
Hey, just hold tight for a second. They're moving the casket. Just hold tight.
Yeah, that's no worries. I got it.
What exactly is plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. 100% pure protein-packed power in a stick. I want Wenzel's Farm. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. What exactly is a meat substitute or plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. The kind you find at Wenzel's Farm and the only kind they use. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked right here in the heartland of America. Wenzel's Farm offers 14 flavors of mouth-watering protein-packed power in a stick, except no substitute. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. Looking for something to power your day? Then look no further than Wenzel's Farm Snack Sticks. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked, these protein-packed power sticks deliver truly sustainable energy. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. You work hard and play hard. You need real fuel to power your day. Not some tofu stuffed rice cake or plant-based meat substitute. No, you need honest-to-goodness, homegrown, protein-packed power in a stick. You need Wenzel's Farm. Quality cuts of meat handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked for a great-tasting snack that delivers real energy. Power up and put the smack down on whatever your day brings with Wenzel's Farm. Real meat for real life.
What do you make of this up here? Just showed up in the yard a couple days
Has a
ago.
dog been digging in there?
I don't think so, dude. That goes way down in there. Seriously, did you just lose your meat stick?
Hello, welcome back to NECC. We're in Division 3. We're in the semifinals for those nationals. I'm Alias, being joined tonight by Goose. Or I guess it should be the opposite, as you've been kind of casting quite a bit of this, whereas I have jumped in occasionally when there has been a substitute needed. But given that you have been the one who's been here, I'll default to you for a little bit of information on the goings-on of NECC.
Yeah, so we had it's been a while. I think it's been 2 weeks since I've even casted, so it's almost like, I'm in the exact same position. But last time we had the grand finals for the regular season playoffs here. This is the playoffs for the nationals, and as you said before, this is D3. I'm pretty sure we've actually covered one of these teams. I probably won't remember until we see the actual rosters. We've covered Nova before, and overall, I think both of these teams. Even for D3 is surprised. I think every tier I've even casted D5 before. Everything surprised me. Just the overall ideas that both of these teams bring. A lot of the time, these matchups do come down to just the individual capability, and usually one team is just simply better mechanically. But overall, I think the ideas coming out of both of these teams, specifically on usually the same maps that you see time and time again, it is quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think gun skill determines a lot of collegiate, but I also think that the teams that can kind of coordinate around each other and execute aggressive plays together and cohesively are usually the ones that will come out on top. And I did do some digging before this, and pretty solid piece of information I found. Nova Nighthawks, they won their quarterfinal game 2-0, whereas Marquette won theirs 2-1. Which obviously is still a victory, but it was a little bit closer than it was for Nova Nighthawks. So that could potentially dictate some things going forward. So we do have the maps coming up as well, and obviously the battleground is very, very important. We almost got Lair, but we just barely dodged that. As we're going to go to Chalet, Labs, and then Bank.
It is honestly kind of polarizing that we actually got to see Bank go for a third map, especially with having both Cafe and Club. Obviously, Chalet and Labs not only are probably the two most favorite maps for Collegiate, but North America overall, Labs has had a lot of playtime in the past year overall. I don't want to necessarily use the phrase that it's been solved per se, but it is a map that a majority of teams in all tier of play understand consistently. It's no longer one of those maps like Lair that still is in a figuring out stage. So again, I think it's one of those maps, again, like Chalet, where teams just go here to play comfortably. They don't want to do anything too crazy. They just want consistency in front of them.
Yeah, but I think that Labs bears a lot of similarity to Clubhouse. And so it does kind of make sense that with Oregon being removed a little bit ago, it does kind of step into one of those roles, or that role of one of those maps that kind of see a lot that teams are very, very comfortable on. Whereas things like Skyscraper, Bank, it gets a little bit adventurous, and then if you're really adventurous, you go for something like Lair. But oftentimes in situations like this, that isn't what we're going to see.
No, it really is. And we also don't have a map that really swings one way. We have both Sky and Console getting banned out very early on. You could even argue that Lair is a defender-sided map. You could also say that Labs is more defender-sided, a 4-2 split. I don't want to say it's consistently what you see, especially in a collegiate setting. You do see, 3-3s more, but I think this is an overall lineup where you really will see both teams just be tested on their over capability. You won't see teams just falter due to just not being able to attack on a Skyscraper. You don't really have that buffer, which in theory should make this an even closer matchup. But I think these maps even, right that. I mean, this is a game between the second and third seed. This is probably, I guess you could say, the best level of play you could have gotten out of the overall playoff bracket that we have.
I'm going to start things off with a Brava ban, which is one that oftentimes does appear to be quite strange, but when you consider the way that Chalet is built, it does make quite a bit of sense, as she can do a ton of damage to the defense's information game without really exerting too much effort, nor putting herself in a ton of danger. Brava is kind of in a similar vein where a lot of this map will rely on vertical play because of how it's constructed, and Brava, with those spooky drones, can throw them in and make a ton of vertical very, very quickly without having to expose herself to too much danger.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't hate that Maestro ban for Chalet specifically, especially for the basement bomb site. I think overall Chalet is a map that really leans heavy into the info game. That's why I absolutely love Brava and then a Two-Brow. And overall, I think especially for collegiate, you can understand if teams understand, one, how to play a map, and then two, how to play the current meta. Teams know how to play maps all the time, but sometimes they're using strats that are 2 to 3 years old. But banning operators like a Ram or a Brava, those are operators that have micro utilities in the current meta. So seeing both teams ban out operators like that gives me a heavy feeling that they understand how to play this map up to date, which again goes back to the idea that this is going to be a matchup that is very even. It's not like you saw a Brava ban and then you saw a Thermite instead of the Ram. Again, sure, Thermite maybe sometimes every once in a while. But again, it goes back to my point earlier. I spoke about on how teams have really just been able to figure out the current meta in all tiers of collegiate.
Starting things off with Bar and Games, keeping things simple. No need to rock the boat too much thus far in the game. Although it does look like from this lineup on Marquette that they don't just want to rock the boat, they want to capsize it. Ying, Lion, and Blitz all coalesce into a very, very aggressive lineup. There's a ton of potential to either get into the bomb site very quickly or take map control adjacent to the bomb site very quickly. Either of which, if Nighthawks aren't prepared for it, could be devastating.
And I really love how Marquette is bringing and understanding this utility for this top Mez hold. Not only do they have a Ying and a Blitz, but they also have the nades on the line. A lot of utility that is meant to just displace operators in their positions. But, I mean, there's just so much utility on this top floor. Not only do you have to deal with the Miras and the Goyos, but you also have those Wamais to, in theory, stop and then remove that displacement utility to allow for these defenders to play a little bit more comfortably. So both teams very well understanding how each other are playing early on.
Warden also does make Ying's job a little bit more difficult, and look at this, that Blitz is running right on in, but Moth is going to start off the killing for us here. This Blitz still has to get in. Hattie helps him get that pick on the Cudso. The smoke being down is huge. The glow canister is not going to be leveraged by the attack. But the defenders, they're still looking to make comebacks here, and they're not doing a half-bad job. Diffuser does go down. That puts a ton of pressure on the defenders. But they're still mounting these picks when they need to. Though a dead even split with a shield can oftentimes be a daunting proposition. As Sneaky just made his way in towards stock. They want to isolate this blitz, but he gets killed off instead. Atsu's in a 1 versus 2, Diffuser down, blitz in your face. Not a fight that everyone can win. Slowly ducking around this cover, just trying to get in that blitz's face, but he's just wasting the time so his teammate can get to safety. When he doesn't even need him, he finishes that off. And an explosive start from Marquette. It's exactly what they need to take that first round.
Spoke about how both teams relatively understood what each other were doing, but Marquette understanding a lot better on what the Nighthawks were doing, especially on that top floor, understanding that there was a very heavy presence away from the bomb site simply to try to waste time and utility from the attack. So Marquette said, you know what, we have a blitz. We could just run right into the bomb site with only one person, that being the mute inside of stock. It was absolutely free pickings for them to take that control. But then after that, they did a phenomenal job at isolating every single defender and every chance that they got. And to be fair, Marquette, or not Marquette, but Nighthawks also did their fair share of isolating themselves, allowing for those 1v1s to happen. But it's a situation where there was never a point in that round where the Nighthawks had really any really win condition to go for, and the entirety, Marquette was in control.
Seeing a lot of shield play here from Leaf specifically, so that is something that I suspect that Marquette want to lean into, which does, I think, make a lot of sense for the way Shellite is structured. This lineup in general, actually, is something I find to be quite interesting. The Blackbeard-Monte combo is not all that unusual, although the Kali is a little bit out there, as she does provide solid utility, especially if there is hard breach denial or Mira on the board. Although I'd imagine that she's probably going to hold a cutoff on a window somewhere when the actual execute happens, so the attackers can cut the site in half.
Yeah, and again, you know, it goes back to my idea that both these teams understand how to play into the current meta. There's a lot of teams in collegiate that just don't understand that shields are powerful. When they try to play shields, they don't know how to utilize them. And we saw in the very first round, they did a fantastic job at using that blitz. This time around, shifting off away from the blitz, bringing both a Blackbeard and a Monty a little bit more of a passive spearhead, but Ekek more than likely is going to be able to, you know, be that, I guess you could say, you know, ignite the powder keg that is this attack so far, just completely isolating himself and allowing for Yab to get an absolute free pick. That shield for the Blackbeard had no effect whatsoever, and Marquette isn't able to get an immediate trade with it.
It's a very odd place to send in that Blackbeard, but you don't have any actual pressure over on that side, and that's a hell of a lot of pressure to lose as well. And that's left Leaf on an island. He is Monty, so he is able to stand tall in that location, but he has the diffuser and is isolated more or less from his teammates unless they can get a body inside to help him get out or just take the space adjacent to them.
Activated. Oh, you can't miss that. And Toucan also almost exposing his body to the player who's still playing on top Fireplace. Still haven't been able to push out this mute, and they're still not going to be able to. Eventually, the Monty is going to be able to deal with that, but you've lost 2 players, wasted 2 minutes of the time, and you don't even know that Moth is above. Everything from Marquette in this round is falling apart because they just don't have consistent info to work off of.
Everything's coming up Nighthawks, and the kill feed is this pretty lackluster and lackadaisical take from Marquette. Has not bared the fruit they were hoping it would. Couple defenders are getting aggressive. Sneaky kills off Toucan. Everything's left up to him. He's a ton of damage on the run-up. Warden gives him the first of the 4 picks that he needs. But he's worried about a potential flank. Peek up with the SMG, see who will expose themselves. These defenders are playing aggressive, but no one out of position. Yab starts off the round with a kill, and he's going to finish it off with one as well, as Nighthawks answer that first round with one of their own.
Yeah, a really great round from Marquette if you want to show an example of how to do a whole lot of nothing. I mean, just the entire round. I mean, you had that Monty inside of Trophy for about a minute and a half until you actually were like, okay, let me start to aggro on this singular player inside of Kitchen, and then you throw a Blackbeard inside of Fireplace completely alone. There's no drone info. If you just had one drone, you'd be able to say, yeah, there's a guy over on Mez. I probably shouldn't run and turn my back. And also, you allow for that Ute to get a kill. They Monty right in front of him. It's simple mistakes because they didn't have enough consistent info. They were dying to so many points around the map that they just simply had no idea that there was a defender there. And that's something that they didn't have an opportunity to make in the first round because they moved so fast and caught the Nighthawks off guard with the relatively soft sight. They weren't put in position to make those mistakes. I think that's something that Nighthawks is going to continue to try their best to take advantage of.
So we've seen every round thus far leave his insta-lock to Blitz, and then he switched it off to the Monty in the past two. Which I like shields. I think they work very, very well. I think that Blackbeard and Monty combo is very potent. But if it's used this round like it was the last couple, or like it was the last one at least, then it's going to be ineffective. So what made that Blitz work so well the first round was how much it displaced defenders on the site. And then the next round, they didn't displace people with the shields. They sat one inside of Trophy the entire time, and then the other one just walked in and got shot on the back. They need to coordinate around these shields and actively use them to make things happen.
Yeah, and I think it's also a sense where we haven't really seen anything from Marquette that says that they want to play onto the vertical. They haven't really played onto the first floor whatsoever. First round, going into the site relatively hotly, and then the second round, just the entirety of that round fell down to just losing players over by Master and Trophy. So I think it's kind of a situation where they're now being forced to clear this top floor, something that they haven't had the opportunity to do before. To be fair, there isn't really a roam presence on this top floor. It's not something you have to really worry about because the majority of that presence is going to be over by that Phantom and Solarium. But you need to try your best to clear this vertical, and starting the round off by yet again losing your Blackbeard in another entry engagement, this time to a C4.
That's 3 opening deaths in a row for Marquette, excuse me. And 2 of those have been the Blackbeard. That is crucial. Those are crucial mistakes that are being made early on in the rounds. Leaf is pushing far up into the top floor here. Cudso gets a pick on the Toucan as more players continue to fall by the wayside for Marquette, as they still need to take the space up top. That's going to be the job of Hattie to make it work with the Monty. There are still 2 players up here, one of which doesn't even look like they really know where he is. They do get a pick on the Sneaky, so that is 1 pick back. But Yab is still in a position that could be quite dangerous. So he has just fallen off by the looks of things. There's 45 seconds left for Marquette to get in, make things work, use this Monty as effectively as they can. But he's pushing so far ahead of the pack with the diffuser in hand. Hattie does get another pick, and that equalizes things. So now, these last couple players have to fall back. Did he get the pick on the Hattie? No, he's on a triple kill. Coming up absolutely huge in this game. If he can kill this player on Westbane as well, that'll be so good. Quad kill for Hattie. Diffuser's going down from the Monty, but C4 goes out. That could catch him. Hattie's killed off Leaf. That's your planter down. That's your Monty. And he's in a 1 versus 1 until this plant goes down. And ace for Hattie is exactly what his team needs to make up for that start.
Yeah, a really good 6K there from Hattie to end the round. Even topped it off, a little cherry on top with his teammate. And that's another round where, you know, the only 2 rounds that Marquette have won is going into a late phase round towards the execution point. Nighthawks just throw pick after pick at Marquette. I don't exactly know. Every single engagement, as soon as they fell down to a 3v5, was a 1vx position, whether it was a 1v2 or a 1v3. Nighthawks did a phenomenal job at just isolating themselves, putting themselves on islands, allowing for Marquette to pick them 1 by 1, and it's kind of a situation where it was an ace. Actually, 6K. We can clip that. As a matter of fact, you can go back in the VOD. But I think it's kind of a situation where they didn't get that opportunity in the second round, and now it's been a continuous problem where if you don't give those isolated picks, Marquette can't really make anything for themselves. I hope that's a problem that Nighthawks can spot.
But I think they did kind of spot it the last round, and
Yeah.
honestly, that last round's probably confirmation of that if it was a theory they had going for them. And I'd imagine this round is going to be an attempt to counteract that a little bit. See the kid come out, which I don't was looking for, but I could be wrong there. More importantly, we're seeing a Vigil this time, who is in a very different position to where they were before. Because before they were all centered around that top floor area at above kitchen and in kitchen, whereas this time the Blitz wants to go to where Marquette actually got their foothold inside of the map from and try to disrupt that playmaking over there to force Marquette into a state of uncomfortability so they will sort of run down their own clock.
Yeah, also something that I just noticed or remembered from last round per se that I don't know how we didn't even talk about this is that they had a 5v3 and they just gave up vert control. I have no idea why they did that. Probably not having a mirror, helps that situation where you feel that pressure, where you feel you don't have enough control. Another round where they're playing the exact same bomb site are not bringing out that mirror. It's not necessarily a needed operator, but it is an operator that makes your job as a defense so much easier. Essentially a lot of this round, especially in the early half, is kind of banking off of this roam from the Vigil to have any use, any effect whatsoever. But if it's just one drone, one missed shot, and he loses his life, the entire spearhead for this defense just falls apart.
Kind of giving himself away with shooting that drone, although it looks like he wants to try to walk out of Bar Hall or 45 and just start peeking players that might be on mezzanine. As we see the Monty yet again pushed way farther than his teammates. But NECC has gotten the first opening kill for his side. C4 goes out completely null and void. tags on for another. And now we're starting to see a more concretely structured take for Marquette as they're trying to pressure these last couple players off of the top floor. And they do force both of them to retreat. So now with a minute left, they have vertical control and the man advantage.
This is something that they didn't have last time. It was a 3v5 for them. They just need one extra pick, and they have all the info that they need. Getting a little greedy, also going for this wall. Moth down below. Yab also in a position to potentially play spoiler.
Someone tries to walk in at the wrong time. That could be deadly. Monty is going to poking it, coming in for Kudzo, but he's just going to fall off, preserve his life. Now Monty's gotten himself far in. Yab, he whiffs his shots. He's downed. Kudzo does manage to get a kill, but Imp has finished off Yab. Users going down. The third plant of this side for Marquette so far. And now, with a man disadvantage, a 2-1 deficit, Nighthawks have to retake into the Monty. And Imp is making that difficult triple kill for him so far. This Moth is trying to do anything he can, but Toucan finishes him off. And Marquette University, they've realized what their woes were, and they're doing such a good job of bringing them back.
It's another round.
Toucan.
It's another round where there just wasn't a lot of utility on that top floor. You didn't have that mirror, so you didn't have anything to, be in place of it. And a lot of that entire defensive round was built off of those roamers having effect. But then not only did those roamers not finish the kills, lost, like didn't even take one kill with them, going all the way down to a 2v5, but they also just played passive. They didn't apply any pressure. They didn't let the attack know their position until they got in a gunfight that, keep in mind, they also lost. So in my opinion, those roams really had no effect whatsoever because Marquette didn't even know that they were there. And it's a situation where I understand the idea behind it, but you're just playing into a theory of Siege that round and round before had no effect whatsoever, and now going on to VAR Gaming, falling back to that ideal of, having these heavy extensions with defender utility to back it up, It's just very confusing on why we're not seeing that on other points of the map.
5 seconds left before insertion.
So, seeing Marquette turn over a new leaf as he's no longer on a shield this round. He's actually going to be on that ace, which is a pick that I like a lot for this site, and it also switches up the pace of play, which is going to force Nighthawks to adapt. And Yab gets overzealous, gets killed off by Leaf, and now he's a warden. His utility is, I mean, it's just gone. Any smokes, any flashes he could have countered are now so much more powerful in his absence.
Yeah, it is really difficult because, I mean, a phenomenal job from Marquette because they don't have that blitz, and they have maybe, 4 flashbangs, but you also have so much utility to display, so that warden wouldn't even really play an effect, and they're playing into this very heavy playstyle where they want to try and hold this vertical, they want to try and deny the space taking, but there's so much attacking utility that you're going to need a kill like Sneaky to try and do something. Still watching that exact same point. A majority of the Marquette players all the way on this basement position, just trying to clear it out, but understanding that they don't have enough info and utility to get rid of that Legion, so they're just going to give it up. They don't really need to play it. It's not a needed point of the map to go for this execution, and with only 1 player on top mez, nobody inside of library, that's a position that's going to be very easy to clear.
Looks like they want to start coming down on Moth pretty soon here. That is kind of the last major hurdle they have before they can start properly working this site itself. He's playing at a pretty awkward angle if they did, like, try to go for him with someone on Ego Balcony, but thus far no one has really looked to do that. And instead they're looking to pressure Library directly.
I mean, they're trying their best to just simply dry swing these positions, hope that these defenders get overzealous and kind of forfeit that position, forfeit that life, but they're not given that, so they have to go for a different opportunity.
45 seconds left for Marquette to get in here. They've done a lot in the preceding 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but none of it's really had the impact they need to get rid of some of these players in these power positions. Leaf is going for a lurk up 2 stairs. We still have players, from the looks of things, trying to pressure Library and the adjacent areas, but Leaf is going to get killed off by that Vigil. Now there's only 20 seconds left. Vigil's wreaking havoc on this attack, as now the rest of them have so much more weight to carry. Imp has it all on his shoulders, and he has 10 seconds to get 3 kills here, get into the bomb site, find whoever he can, but they're trying to swing out, pressure him, make him uncomfortable. And it's likely going to end with the timer being run down. 2 consolation kills on his way out. But at the end of the day, it's nothing compared to the round loss.
It is really a perfect example from Nova to show us that if you just play a little bit passive, if you don't give those easy opportunities for early picks in the round, Marquette isn't going to do their best to try and take things away from you. They didn't try and push Legion out of his position. They never fully committed to clearing that top floor vertical hold. And because of it, they were kind of just flip-flopping, hoping that they could find an easy opportunity. And because they never found it, they didn't do anything. They just kept stalling time, switching. They tried to go for the basement. That didn't work. They went upstairs. That didn't work. Went back down to the basement. Again, it's a situation where if there's not an easy opportunity in front of them, Marquette cannot do anything to really take anything from the Nighthawks. But something that really worries me is that we have not seen the Nighthawks go down to that basement position. They are, though, bringing out this clash to be kind of that heel, that change of pace that Marquette has not had the opportunity to necessarily play against. And honestly, I like that read from them.
They're also trying to hide it, which is something that usually looks quite goofy because it's just like a guy going front in a corner. But I think it is. I mean, a clash, if it's unexpected, is often quite terrifying to deal with. She does have a ton of potential to just waste time and be sort of an ominous presence. Kind of like what the Monty does, but with the advantage of the timer. Although I will say, a weakness with Clash that is very underrated, and really weakness with all shields, I would argue, is that the less bodies that are standing around them, the weaker they become. So both of these teams effectively being down a gun with the shields they're bringing are really gonna want to make sure that they don't let the picks go too far in favor of their opponents, especially so for this round.
Goyo's just kind of, chilling here. I like this position specifically because you can just, look around. You can, change the pace. I think that's one thing that Nighthawks have been relatively good at is just changing their positions really quickly. Sometimes to the point where they change it too quickly and fall off crucial extensions. And I think that's a problem they kind of fixed last time, especially on that top 4 position. With all that utility, there's no way that you're going to fall down for it. And to be fair, Sneaky getting a lot of use early on with this flash, pushing down what could have been a lot of quick sight taking, but with a minute off the board, I mean, Marquette is still doing a really good job of just clearing this utility, clearing this path, that Clash no longer having that surprise factor. But at the same time, there isn't really a huge effort from this attack to go for multi-directional attack, and losing that entry pick to the Goyo behind the Clash shield is really going to put the attack in a difficult position.
And he's continuing to just play aggressive here. That mobile shield that's feeding him information and slowing down his opponents is something that is going to be so valuable for them. In fact, she's just going to replace the reinforced wall they just opened. Because now there's an attempt to take below the site. It does result in a refrag. That's Kudzo falling. And there's an opportunity for another one, potentially, if they can figure out where Moth is. And the Monty does exactly that. Kek has taken him down as well. And that swings the man advantage back in the favor of the attack. But the time is still dwindling here, which really might be what ends up killing this attack, if anything does. So now things have settled down, at least for a little bit, as both of these teams, specifically the attack, try to work things, figure out what people are, and what opportunities they can get to get into this round as the Clash is rotating wherever their bodies from the attack. But a beautiful shot from Toucan takes down Atsu. And now Yab, stuck in a difficult position inside of Office, has to try to find something. As the Clash is alone on the other side, there's the potential for a plant. Leap wants to go for it. He is going for it. Yab taken down by Toucan. Imp taking down Sneaky. And that is Marquette University taking a 4-2 half on their own map there.
Yeah, a phenomenal round for Marquette to spot every small, tiny gap. And also, because of that, they were able to spot the parts of the map where Clash really had no effect. Completely, again, putting her on an island, making sure that she had no real effect in that round, aside from that early minute. Going for that take over inside of Kitchen, getting 2 kills there, using that Monty to isolate the player inside of Dining, and then all the way over into Trophy, and then doing the exact same thing on the bomb site with that control in Solarium. You were able to apply back pressure, forcing those last 2 defenders to have to worry about multiple different points. Even with Marquette losing that opening engagement to the Goyo, they still did a phenomenal job at recovering the round, making sure that they still applied pressure, even with that man deficit. And that's something that Nighthawks struggled to. Every time that they lost that opening pick or had a relatively bad opening half, and went into that later half, that execution phase of the round with a man deficit, they had no real way to get themselves back into the round. I think that's something that will translate onto the second half.
Yeah, I do want to see how that kind of
10 seconds remaining.
manifests itself on this half. Is
5 seconds left.
I would argue on defense, it's a lot easier to set yourself up to have a successful opening going around, as you are the one who builds and dictates the jungle gym. And thusly, it is much simpler to set things up for yourself. You can also run down the timer, which is something that gets exponentially more dangerous for the attack as time goes on. And so if Nighthawks had trouble setting themselves up properly on the defense, if that translates to the attack, it could be lights out for their opponents.
Yeah, you just see just how fast the Nighthawks are moving so far. Just getting rid of a lot of these, outside windows open, applying pressure early on. And to be fair, that's something that we didn't necessarily see from Marquette, but it's also something that they didn't need to. We didn't see a heavy play from the castle on Nighthawks defense, and this is a lot of utility that I talked about that I would have loved to see the Nighthawks when they were defending this top floor extension. Sure, you don't have a mirror, and you probably would, again, prefer that, but you have a shield. You have these castle barricades, a lot of utility that is wasting time, and you still have to go into gunfights. You still have to open that wall inside of meeting, and there's still so much to do, and Marquette, they know that.
So they're trying to actually work this utility on the top floor now, and they have gotten rid of a decent bit of it. Shield gone inside of Piano. Wall opened up as well, but a Keck and Kudzo trade, evening out the man count again, but giving the opener to the defense and continuing to put Gab into the dirt before he has proper impact on these rounds, as now Leaf is stuck face to face with the Blackbeard. A dangerous position, but he has help. He has so much help from his teammates, in fact, as they have now created themselves a double of their opponent's man count. Going into this last minute, that forces these last two attackers to slow down and start to reevaluate their options.
Yeah, this slow pace is going to give Marquette an opportunity, or Nighthawks rather, the opportunity to potentially strike, but it's just not going to happen. ACAC with another one, Moth is now down, and it's all up to the Ace in a 1v4. He has no idea where these players are.
And they're not afraid to peek out on him either. They want to figure out exactly what he's doing and try to stop it. And they're still exerting pressure to make this clutch attempt more daunting than it already is. Just hiding in corners, taking pot shots, reinforcing their teammates, so there's not a proper opportunity for a one-on-one. This is going to jump in. He manages to get one. He has to go pistol out, though. His assault rifle's out of ammo.
15 seconds remaining.
Desperately looking for someone to reveal themselves. Walk around into the bathroom, see if Leaf will fall, but he will not. Stays firmly implanted on that tree. And Marquette put themselves up 5-2 with a great start to their defense.
That's probably one of the best close-range pistols. Honestly, I think that is the best close-range pistol in the game. And I also think it probably is one of the pistols with the highest fire rate. And that's something that, I think it was against Space Station. I don't remember exactly what team they did, but it was just, it was the kill position over by bottom Solarium stairs, a 1v4, and he just whips that pistol out and kills everybody. I think it's one of those situations, again, it goes back, it's those small details that build up to the bigger picture, and that's something that we're not seeing from Nighthawks. We're not seeing that attention to detail, and because of that, they're losing picks after picks. Two kills go completely untraded, turning into 3, and that last engagement putting the last player on Nighthawks in a 1v5. And there's round in, round out where not only can Nighthawks not put themselves in a position to recover, but even when they are in positions to recover, they just can't win those crucial gunfights because they don't put themselves in winning opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally this is a map where you'd expect some solace from Nighthawks going on to the attack, but just, at least the way that's manifested so far, has just been phenomenal for Marquette. But I think that Nighthawks, I mean, they just have trouble setting themselves up a lot of the time. They're not able to properly get that first domino in the chain to go the way they need it to set up the rest of that whole series of events. And obviously, right, that's our sample size is 1 there, so this round might be a little bit different. We're seeing a different side here, which means that there are different opportunities to get in here, but it's still a difficult proposition.
Also, something that we didn't see from Marquette is this, Capital trying to, use it on that kill position. Nobody's going to be there. Spray, though, from Kudos is going to be able to find the opening to getting rid of Hattie. I mean, that's phenomenal. Not only do you get rid of a lot of utility off that warden, you also get a very useful player and no immediate trade from Marquette. Something that Nighthawks need to make sure they take advantage of, and as I say that, I speak that into existence as Leaf eventually does answer it back. I mean, just look at how much this defense has slowed down Nova. I mean, just haven't been able to transfer that first initial pick into another one. Haven't been able to use this utility to get inside of reading. I thought that was about to be another wallbang. It was actually Yab from the double window.
So we have the last 90 seconds of the round for Nighthawks to convert this man advantage they found themselves with. Although it's notable, one of the defenders left is the Azami, who's going to grow more powerful as time goes on. And Leaf and Imp are both left up on the board. Been performing phenomenally in the kill department. As the attackers are just going to flood this. Leaf falls as he tries to escape. But a Keck, now left inside of no man's land, has to try to make this work. And Imp is left completely alone on site here. If the attackers want to go and try to isolate him. But I don't think they're aware of where a Keck is. He hasn't fallen back nearly as much as they would have thought, and he's equalized the man count now. Kudzo does manage to put him in a 1 versus 2, but he has an opportunity for that first pick that he needs. Can only find it ducking around this wall inside of Ivy Hall. Yab finishes him off. And this time it's Marquette that lets the picks fall in ways they just can't to expose themselves to the attack the Nighthawks are bringing.
Yeah, really good round from Nighthawks at just getting kills in difficult positions, getting that wall bang into box over inside of Library, and then just having that player over on balcony just sit on that double window and wait until a player rotated from blue to Mez that just simply was not watching their back. It was those simple mistakes, the small details that Nighthawks paid attention to, and because they were patient, they were rewarded. But at the same time, you're not always going to have those opportunities. That patience isn't always going to pay off. You're not going to have picks control around the map just fall into your lap like that round right there. And the exact same problem that Marquette had, and I need to see something from Nighthawks. Something that we did not see from Nighthawks, though, is the basement defense. Marquette bringing this out, and we have not seen it at all. We are 8 rounds in now, and this is the very first time that we've actually seen basement.
I mean, I'm not surprised necessarily that we haven't seen basement, because I think that, I mean, it isn't unusual for a team to kind of prefer 3 out of the 4 and then not touch the other one. Although I do think it's interesting, regardless we haven't seen it, because it would be one that I'd anticipate being played over Master Bedroom,
Yeah.
which we saw Nighthawks play a couple different times. Well, what I'm really interested to see is how the roam game for Marquette goes, because we saw Nighthawks try a couple extended roams, and I mean, it didn't go as poorly as it could have, I guess, but there was a lot left to be desired, I would argue, from those roams they did.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that Marquette has done better than Nighthawks is not only having more consistent roams, but also having the utility to back it up. So Nighthawks just can't go through these positions and just only have to worry about try swinging and winning gunfights. You also have to worry about the utility in front and around these defenders. It's something that I think Nighthawks just kind of missed the pot on their own defense. And, you know, this is Marquette's map pick. So far, they have relatively understand how to play better. And that intel game I was talking about, Valkyrie getting so much info off spotting this face all the way over by office. Valkyrie is going to be able to get any use off of that, but it does give the idea not only where this push is coming from, but also info for Leaf to get a C4 kill below, and now that's your cap gone. All of that execution utility, essentially all of that execution utility, now off of the board for the attack.
And they do try to move quickly to find a refrag, but Leaf has just decided to get the heck out of Dodge. He's ran away completely. And he is still occupying an area adjacent, so he could potentially try to get aggressive. But he's just out of there. They don't want to give Nighthawks an opportunity to get back into the round. Because now Nighthawks, they need to transition into working top floor here. They haven't even really fully taken that. Because if they don't have that control, that is going to lose them the round.
It's very difficult because Nighthawks, they haven't been able to find a pick. They haven't been able to apply really any pressure. And there's still 2 players on this first floor over by Kitchen and Solarium. And I'm not necessarily sure if it's a situation where Nighthawks are not aware or if they just don't know how to address it. But nonetheless, it's going to be a problem that's going to haunt them later on.
Those players could do so much just from those positions. We're starting to see them get a little bit adventurous here. This Moth, he wants to try to beat them back with that Dokkaebi call, but looks like they're just going to remain stalwart here until Yab kills off Hattie. Though Imp immediately has a refrag, and then Leaf gets a second one on his own flank. And that lack of control and awareness has come back to bite them. Yab does get a second onto the smoke. He has an opportunity for a third, but there's so little time left to do anything. The defenders are just sitting and waiting. Yab has gotten his third, but the impact is going to be meaningless as now Marquette sit on map points on Chalet.
That round would have been over a lot quicker if Yab didn't have the confidence just to run around in sight with his gun down. I mean, like full sprinting like he's Usain Bolt. I mean, it's a situation where I talked about info on Chalet. This is actually one of the most underrated maps in my opinion for the info game. A lot of people go back to maps like a clubhouse or a border, but I think Chalet probably is one of, if not the most util or intel heavy maps, and we saw that in that round specifically. Not only did Marquette have quite a bit of info from those Valkyrie cams, getting info from where that push was happening, even getting a C4 kill off of it, but if you look at the turn side of things, Nighthawks, they had no info whatsoever. The only time that they knew that there was a Frost over by that extension in the kitchen was when she swung. And it's a situation where if you allow for easy kills like that to continuously happen, a team like Marquette, they're going to know exactly what they're doing right. They're going to know that you don't have info on them, and they're going to continue to push that trend.
And now we go to Kitchen. Which, hey, if Marquette are looking to cook Nighthawks 7-3, solid place to end it off on.
10 seconds left.
Yeah.
Although this is a site where I think there is some hope for Nighthawks, just given the fact that if they can get that top floor control, that really often does dictate how the rest of the round is going to go. It does also kind of give Marquette a staging ground, a place to draw a line in the sand, if you will. So you'll have to see how both teams look to make that work. As I feel it's also kind of justifiable to point to the score lines from a couple of Nighthawks players, right? Because obviously, kills aren't everything, but just when you look at people on Marquette either being really positive like Imp and Leaf, or just barely negative like the rest of the squad compared to a lot of what we're seeing and have seen historically from Nighthawks, does kind of paint a picture of how some of these rounds are going in the mid-round.
Nighthawks doing a phenomenal job at droning. Tough part is there's no one there, but Leaf is just completely unaware of his surroundings, like he has headphones on, but listening to music instead of game sound. They're not going to be able to eventually finish that kill off, but he's isolated. Whether or not Marquette know that they can get to him, they are too scared to go over there. For at least now, they're not going to be able to get it. Eventually, though, they are able to finish off that pick. And that's also a lot of utility with those my disc, kind of retaining over time. And on top of it, Marquette aren't able to answer it back.
That puts pressure on the rest of the top floor players as well to get more active to make up for that kill. As it does look like the attack want to start making their way in here, but there is still some resistance coming in from the first floor, actually, to help aid in this. Let's look at this. Hattie wants to get aggressive. He's in such an off position here. They might not know where he is. He's just going to look around, see if anyone will expose themselves, but Kudzo has gotten another pick this round, or Hattie kills off Moth. Kudzo's on a triple kill now. And it's all left to a Keck, sitting alone in Red Hall. Gonna go for the first swing that he needs. He does collect on that kill, but his location has been revealed. It's been flashed, and he still has 3 players to find in this post plane. He doesn't even get one, as Sneaky has a great position behind the dining room bomb. That keeps Nighthawks alive for just a little bit longer and brings them within 2 rounds of overtime.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very polarizing round for me because there's a lot of simple and frustrating mistakes made individually by the players. Obviously, the biggest 2 examples was that first engagement with that Wamai. I'm not exactly sure what he's bumping, but it wasn't game sound because he didn't know the guy that was below him. Losing his life eventually finished off, and then the player on balcony by double window, not aware that there was an ace on that balcony, also losing his life, turning that 2v4 into a 1v4. It's kind of a situation where we didn't see Marquette play that
Attackers have
loose,
located a bomb.
play that careless and free throughout the rounds. This is the very first time they've consistently made that mistake more than once in just the turn of one round. And I think it's hopefully something that they can fix here in this round and then finish it off. Because if they don't, Nighthawks are well in a position to push this into overtime.
Back to the bar we go. There's another attempt being made.
Mira!
Oh, Mira.
I love Mira. Sorry.
Mira
5 seconds
is an
left
operator that
before
is very worth highlighting for a few reasons, but I think,
attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
I mean, honestly, the most succinct way to put it is just that she is the original architect operator. She alters the way the map plays in so many different ways. She creates those sight lines with mirror windows, and she has the capability to alter the map with the shotgun as well. She can do so much in creating a stronghold for Marquette to play inside of.
And I don't know if we've seen, I don't think we've seen that Mira inside of box by Library, specifically pointing towards double window. I think that's something new. But, again, maybe I could just be schizophrenic. Maybe I just forgot about it. But this is also a position where there's a lot of utility. Again, I've talked about how Marquette continues to just stack utility. Nighthawks bringing this forward. This is not the first time. The round where they did bring it, they didn't necessarily need to use it, though. But Kudo's doing a much better job at using that firebolt to push out Toucan, get rid of his life as he was trying to rotate away. And that's another opening pick for Nighthawks that has gone completely untraded, at least for now.
It is a castle, so the utility that he actually had in his pocket is quite limited. But it is still a precedent that you don't really want to let be set if you are Marquette. There's obviously a couple different players. Just kind of poking around, seeing what may reveal itself, trying to figure out exactly what's happening. Because they need to not only rebuff this next push, but also preferably get a kill out of it as well, in order to really be comfortable. Well, there is dwindling time, which does provide some solace for the defense.
Again, there has not been a pick, and to be fair, Marquette has been forced to play really passive. Nighthawks completely taking control of this top floor. Every single player's here, and it gets worse as the Lion eventually does take a tech's life, and now it's a 3v5. In Marquette, they continue to be just pushed into smaller and smaller positions.
Hattie is holding quite an off angle here. He wants someone to reveal themselves. He wants someone to overplay their hand, and someone does. There's the potential for another if he plays his hand right, but Yab is better in that gunfight. And that brings us back to a worse position than before, because Imp is in a 1 versus 4, and he doesn't even get 1 because Yab has the information. Swings him beautiful headshot to the pixel. And that's going to inspire the first timeout of this best of 3.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That is 2 rounds in a row where Marquette had no idea of the attacker positions. Sure, they had a relatively good idea on what the general idea. I mean, it's a bar defense. You understand, especially with a heavy hold in top mez. It goes the same way every single time, aside from a key few positions changing every now and again. But it's a situation where every gunfight, Marquette didn't understand that there was an attacker watching them, going all the way back to that first engagement on the castle, not aware that Capital was holding his position, waiting for him to run away. Mira not aware of her position, and then even the warden inside of not dirt, but coat closet, not aware that there was a second player literally right in front of him, just waiting for that sound cue. I talked about how Marquette has done a phenomenal job at gathering info, but in these last 2 rounds, that's the main factor that they have been lacking.
So we're going back down to the basement, which was a very successful bomb site for them. Largely off of that info that you were just talking about, with Leaf providing so much of that. And there was an IQ the last time,
Defenders, protect
which
your bombs from being defused by
ideally
attackers.
prevents a little bit of that, although that didn't have the greatest impact out of that utility. I won't lie. And so I'd imagine that the game plan probably going to be for Nighthawks to try to counter that exact intel.
Attackers have located a bomb.
You know, and I really love that Nighthawks picked into that Brava, but at the same time, they aren't really expecting a Valkyrie. But again, you know, if you give these opportunities, Nighthawks will take advantage of it. So if this is a round where Marquette are not able to use not only the default info, but, you know, the other info from just, you know, whatever players getting engagements, the Valkyrie cams, and they're not aware of the positions, that's when you give these the opportunity. But Marquette, taking that timeout, well aware of their mistakes, I don't think Nighthawks are going to be able to get those up. You have players like Yav on the Blackbeard, or even the Ying, to displace and create opportunities to get picks, and that's something that I'm really going to be looking at this round.
Interesting vertical hold that Leap has there, and Summer, I quite like that. I'll definitely steal that for an indeterminate point in the future. Well, the more immediate thing that matters right now is the information gathering and entry points happening from Nighthawks. Because now they're looking to counter that area that they just kind of left to its own, and they do it successfully thus far, with Kudzo getting that opening pick, taking down Hattie, and they don't kill off everyone in that area, but they do relieve a significant amount of pressure.
Another kill, just somebody's not looking. They're not aware of Kudo's position. And now Toucan, he's scared. He has to push back down to the bomb site. He is forced to give up that position. That hatch also soft is going to give so much useful utility to that vert. And you can see that he understands that somebody has to get aggressive. Somebody has to do something to push back and apply pressure to this deck. There's no opportunity at any corner to do that.
Keck does try, but Blackbeard's what ends up beating his gaze. That kind of puts him in an awkward position. He does manage to skirt it somewhat, but now Yings are going out. Players trying to get into the bomb site here. Well, things are going to pause momentarily. But the attack cross their T's and dot their I's. They need to get in here quick, and Toucan peeks out too far. A Keck does as well, or Imp rather does. Now it's all left up to a Keck. There's a Blackbeard coming after him. Yings are going down. Sens walls are up. Nothing matters in the end. And he falls by the wayside without even one kill, as Nighthawks have pushed us to overtime.
2-4-2 attacking apps was not in my book. I did not actually expect that. And to be fair, it's not even like Marquette just dropped the ball. Nighthawks spotted the gaps consistently, especially the Frost just playing the exact same position. Obviously, she wasn't given the opportunity to play aggressive over into that fireplace position because she was picked off so early on. But that Buck quickly setting that vertical, it's not like he just set that vertical and he just sat there for 30 seconds waiting for the Frost to fall into it. He got info on her exact position, shot the floor right above him, and then immediately went for the kill. That's something that we didn't see in previous rounds where Marquette were able to get those early engagements, and that complete change of pace is something that Marquette was not prepared for. Even with a timeout being used on the board, they were never fully able to adapt to this different playstyle and just overall pace that Nighthawks has set.
Mira back on the board. Unsuccessful.
10 seconds to go.
In the last attempt, but I mean, who knows? Second time could be the charm. Usually it's the third, but you don't really have time for the third now that we're in overtime.
The bomb.
I love what I build up, just collegiate as a whole, and then I don't want to use the word masterclass because again, this can just be basics, but when we get really close and really good games like this, because I know that these teams can do it. Oh my god, is Ryan just jumping in for the kill? He isn't able to find anything just yet. And again, that's something that I need. I need that change of pace. I need these players getting really aggressive when they've been playing relatively passive, especially in this early half of the round, because that's something that this defense isn't going to be necessarily expecting.
There's still a lot of site setup that needs to be done. Hold on, walls aren't in place. His holes aren't in place. Seiki gets one, but Leaf manages to refrag it at the very least. That is the ace off the board, which is a solid pick. But you don't want to lose your Wumai this early. That's a ton of utility left on the cutting room floor. And, well, just less the attack has to clear out as well.
And you get that pick back. You also get that ace off the board. And you get time to reset. You get time to breathe. That's something that in the previous 2 to 3 rounds, Marquette didn't have that opportunity to. And this is going to be a situation where, sure, Nighthawks, they're not losing any engagements or anything. Wow, what a shot from Yab. I was going to talk about how they're getting too comfortable. They're getting that kill on the mirror not only gets them the advantage, but gets them a lot of useful map control with it. There's still 2 players up on this top floor. It doesn't look like the Nighthawks are fully aware.
They do bring things back into their favor, however, as NECC overplays his hand. Fuser is down, Hattie refrags, equalizes things, but he's cut off by Moth. That leaves Yab and Moth in a 2 versus 1. Make that a 0 versus 1 because Moth has the swing. And that is Nighthawks on overtime map points.
Yeah, Nighthawks are just laying the hammer down now. That's 3 or 4 rounds
4 rounds
completely
in a row.
So yeah,
That
4 rounds
is
in a row,
4.
even with a timeout. I think that is really big because in some points of Siege, especially, I don't want to say, I'll say T3. The timeout doesn't really have necessarily an effect, but right here, it still doesn't have an effect. And I think that is a really telltale sign. It's not like Marquette didn't use that timeout to the full effectiveness. It's just Nighthawks simply being better at adapting to every single front. Marquette are doing a lot of the same things. Sure, they're changing up small bits and pieces, but the general idea of having, 2 players over by top mez, 1 player swinging between top blue with a player behind top blue shield, it's positions that Nighthawks have seen before, and because of that, they're expecting it, and they have the idea, they have the counter to clear that, and without this consistent adaptability from Marquette, it's kind of just giving the strat book to the attack.
10 seconds left.
What does Marquette do on the attack after all this time? They also had a lights-out attacking half, getting a 4-2 in that first half. Although, we've had 7 rounds elapsed since then. That has put Nighthawks on the defense, which they did struggle on before, but there's going to be newfound confidence there because they've done so well in these past 4 rounds. They've been completely unanswered by Marquette. Even through a timeout, none of the problem solving they've done has really worked at all.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's just those small problems. I spoke about the last round, that Mira just not being aware of her surroundings, giving an easy headshot to that Capital. It's those small mistakes that not only are being consistently made by Marquette on potentially now almost both sides, but also it's Nighthawks consistently spotting it, and that's something that they didn't have in the first round. They weren't able to spot those gaps, spot those tiny little mistakes, and Nighthawks are able to find 2. A NECC just missing his shots. He is able to down Sneaky, but he's not immediately in a position where they can clear him.
Nobody picks this game. We've been dominated by Nighthawks, and that's going to be a trend that holds true. Leaf does manage to find a couple. He equalizes things. That's going to prompt Yab to halt his adventure early and just get back to the site, as there is still 1 roamer on the board, and they just want to let Ansu work his own magic here. And there is a lot of potential for him to do so, because the attacker still gathering information on this kitchen area, and there's still more they have to do later.
I think this last a minute 20, you don't have control of that defuse. Sure, you just, rotate a player over. It's not that big of a deal. But just simply that small little bit of a time waste, and also having that potentially of Otsu. And now you have Yab working their way up. They understand that Marquette is working slow, that they don't have the map control yet needed. And they're in a position where they have to choose, do we want to go and try and take this fireplace control, or are we just going to try to brute force our way into wine?
Looks like they might try to go for something wine side. They're still so wary of someone off site. That phantom pressure is huge. There probably isn't anyone in the positions. that NECC is worried about here, but he's still worried about them. Nonetheless, as they want to try to walk into the back here,
Attackers recovered the bomb.
potentially try to work off of that hatch as well. As Leaf is opening things up by Pillar, he's shot at from that position. Gonna throw some fire bolts at it. See if he can dislodge this defender. Atsu makes his move. He does so much damage to a NECC. Diffuser's on the ground, but can he continue to stick it? He's left all alone. Leaf does get the kill, but the diffuser planter's downed. And now Yap, he's just waiting for the time to run out, and he wins the game for Nova Nighthawks. 8-6. Was that 5 unanswered rounds in a row for Nighthawks to take their opponent's map pick.
Their opponent's map pick is huge. I've spoke about this, that winning your map pick for a lot of collegiate teams is almost series defining. And the fact that not only Nighthawks were able to win their opponent's map pick, but in a fashion where they were down, going flawless for 5 rounds straight, completely unanswered. There was no point in that map where their opponents had any idea on how to counter them, and they knew it.
It's story as old as time, fortunately. Something that we see happen decent bit. We do have labs coming up next, but before that, we're going to send things to a quick break. Just make sure that everything is set up on our side. So get up, grab some Wenzels and some water, but don't go anywhere too far, because we're going to be right back.
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's something in there, dude. Just leave it.
Are you kidding me?
We'll just head to us. Just leave it.
The hell with that.
Oh, yeah, there's something in there.
Want one?
Thank you.
It was worth it.
Oh, man, this is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Hey, man, grab me a meat stick. I think I can reach it if I just... A little more. Just let me go a little. I can't. Just a little more. I almost got it. Careful! Oh, God. No. Come on, just reach. Reach. Just grab my hand. I can't hold it. Grab my hand.
Give me the meat stick. This other hand's closer. The one with the stick is... Oh! What am I supposed to say?
It doesn't matter. His daddy ain't listening to you anyway.
I'm hungry.
No. Put it away. I can't watch it. Oh, crap. Just reach in. You gotta pull it. Just grab it. Just take it out of his hand. What do you mean you can't?
He won't let go.
What do you mean he won't let go? He's dead.
Help me. Get in there. No, just hold on.
Make him let go of it. No, I got you. Just go in for a hug. Go and get on in there. It's a bad loss. Yeah, hug him. Hug him up. Just reach. Hug him up.
He's breathing.
On the other side. Go.
I can't.
Just-
I can't do it.
Help me, Lord. Help me get over this loss.
I can't breathe.
Yeah, I can't breathe. I'm so upset. I can't breathe. Stop. You knock on wood so they go to heaven. It's like a lucky. Hey, get the stick.
Yeah.
Hey, do you the meat stick?
Yeah, I got it.
Hey, just hold tight for a second. They're moving the casket. Just hold tight.
Yeah, it's no worries. I got it.
What exactly is plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. 100% pure protein-packed power in a stick. I want Wenzel's Farm. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. What exactly is a meat substitute or plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. The kind you find at Wenzel's Farm and the only kind they use. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked right here in the heartland of America. Wenzel's Farm offers 14 flavors of mouth-watering protein-packed power in a stick, except no substitute. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. Looking for something to power your day? Then look no further than Wenzel's Farm Snack Sticks. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked, these protein-packed power sticks deliver truly sustainable energy. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. You work hard and play hard. You need real fuel to power your day. Not some tofu stuffed rice cake or plant-based meat substitute. No, you need honest-to-goodness, homegrown, protein-packed power in a stick. You need Wenzel's Farm. Quality cuts of meat handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked for a great-tasting snack that delivers real energy. Power up and put the smack down on whatever your day brings with Wenzel's Farm. Real meat for real life.
What do you make of this up here? Just showed up in the yard a couple days
Has a
ago.
dog been digging in here?
I don't think so, dude. That goes way down in there. Seriously, did you just lose your meat stick?
Welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed those Wenzel's ads. I always do when we're getting ready for things. I always sit there and watch them because even with no audio, they are very, very goofy, and I appreciate that. For those of you who might have missed out, we're in the Division III Nationals semifinals. Marquette University versus the Nova Nighthawks. And the previous map was Chalet, which was Marquette's map pick, but Nova Nighthawks ended up taking that map 8-6.
Yeah, and I talked about how big it is winning your opponent's map pick, especially going to a map that is completely contrasting to last. Both Chalet and Night Haven Labs playing relatively different. Overall, there's some similarities with how big the map is. It is very dangerous if you are on the roam. You can easily get disconnected. That's something that I'm gonna be looking at Marquette potentially fix. But 5 rounds in a row with a timeout in place is nothing to just sweep under the rug. That is a huge problem. That sure, you don't want it too much in your minds. You obviously want to say GG, go next, but at the same time, you have to understand that you need to make some kind of change, because what we saw last round was not simply just Chalet. That was a system problem of the Nighthawks completely figuring out Marquette.
Yeah, I mean, just losing your own map pick like that is something that can put you in a weird headspace going into the next map in a series, which this is where Nighthawks wanted to go, where they wanted to stake their claim in this series. And they've, as we've said, already taken their opponents. They're going to be feeling good going into this. There's not going to be a worry on their minds.
I'm excited. I am specifically excited to see, one thing is, do certain bans translate from map to map? Maverick, Marquette. I think Marquette's overall a team that bans specifically to a map. I don't think they're going to carry the same 2 operators like some teams do, especially in collegiate. But again, I think it's kind of a situation where they need to play into Night Haven Labs. I think they need to try to find every strength that is possible to make it as easy as possible. Nighthawks from moving blitz. Sure, Marquette, they don't start on the defense, but eventually when they go to the attack, I think that's an operator that they're going to really miss.
I mean, it's one they liked a lot on the last map, and I think that is a ban targeted specifically at that. They want to make Marquette feel uncomfortable as soon as they possibly can. And that mental warfare, we haven't even loaded into the first prep phase yet, and it has already started.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Nighthawks are really, eager to play into, also banning the Valkyrie. I talked about how some operators transcend the map specifically, Valkyrie has use on every single point in the map because Nighthaven Labs is so big. Those Valkyries have a completely different use. Not only are you able to get info, but because the map is so big, a lot of the times attacking teams will completely just miss those Valkyries. I think that's a problem that Marquette doesn't necessarily want to deal with, or maybe it's a problem that they know they have. But again, you still have the Monty, you still have that Blackbeard, and Deimos, something that both teams not
Attackers need
as
to
of
locate
yet
and
have really
defuse
used to.
bombs.
Obviously, Nighthawks leaning into that, and this is an operator that is, in my opinion, especially in a collegiate setting, very underutilized on Nighthaven Labs, and Nighthawks already leaning into it.
Really, what is there not to like about Deimos? He has frag grenades, which may not have the glory they once had, but are still very, very useful if applied correctly. He has a phenomenal kit for taking and winning gunfights with both his primary and pistol. And that ability to track
10
operators,
seconds to insertion.
even though it's only him that can see it, is still useful information. And
5
that
seconds to
combined with his pistol being so good for hurt, that point's nullified because he's an
Attackers are
IQ now.
moving out to
But
locate a
still,
bomb and
if you look to lean into it later, it'd be very good pick. Although I think the IQ might make a good bit of sense here, just given that there's a Kate on the board. He's on!
And I think it's also something in the idea behind banning the two-brow is that Nighthawks, they just want to make
A
getting
bomb
these
has been
walls
located.
relatively simple. That's why, you know, this Cade specifically on IT. The problem is you don't have ban, you don't have a mute whatsoever. So if you go over to connector wall, if you go to the wall inside of connector, it's going to be easy to open. Already hearing that blast from that exothermic charge gives me the idea that they already have the actual wall open. And if they just take this IQ with Yab and just shoot these Cade claws from below, it's not going to really have an effect. I don't want to say it's a one-trick wonder, but it is very one-dimensional. It's something that Nighthawks spot out very early on.
He's actively trying to play on this and trick it. And Hattie's going to get a first pick off of Hudso, trying to dislodge him. And then him still going to try to play aggressive on that breach. Just trying to keep Nighthawks out as much as they can. They've already gotten that first pick. Now they just want to make sure they can't actually get inside of the map to get that foothold they need to mount a comeback.
Still haven't been able to displace this control, specifically Leaf, over inside of Raptors. You can also see that Moth is trying his best to apply any pressure, but with these Akiba barriers, it's so difficult just to push this one defender. And also, on top of that, the rotate into the bomb site, having that castle to lend a hand, made below well-timed. He can maybe get a second one, but he's not aware of the ace swinging onto him.
Hattie's gonna fall as well, this time to Yab. As a Keck, he spotted one outside of IT. He wants to try to play for another pick here. But the attack has a lot of very good map control. And a man advantage now. They found where the Mira and the Cade are. They know about where the castle's gonna be. And Yab is still playing below here, playing for a spoiler. Sneaky's gonna tag on with a Keck. And now he's going to start planning that diffuser. Dokubi call goes out as well. C4 is missed. Now the defender has to swing, but Asu is better. He's good for 2 even. No need for that diffuser when your ace is using that AK-12 for exactly what it's meant for.
Also, using that mirror against the defense. That round specifically, I want to give huge props to the Nighthawks for simple problem solving. Getting rid of the Cade claws, identifying it very early on, putting 4 different players on that. Having somebody ping it, having 2 players outside the breach, having a Thatcher the wall, then have an Ash below.
Attackers need to locate
This is
and
a
defuse as many
solution
bombs as they can.
that has multiple different points of attack for Nighthawks, and that's something that's not going to change from map to map. You're going to see the exact same thing going down to basement or kitchen, and that's a problem that I don't think Marquette in this matchup specifically has the tools to necessarily deal with. And on top of that, going all the way back to the Raptors too, getting rid of that Azami in timely fashion, it's the situation where if the Nighthawks spot one problem, one
Attackers have
obstacle,
located a bomb.
they know exactly how to get rid of it, and every player is on the same page.
10 seconds left.
I did really like the way you put that. Just Nighthawks are so
5
good at
seconds to go.
problem solving. Anything that we saw Marquette throw at them during that
Attackers are
5-round
heading out
streak
to
they got
defuse the
last
bomb.
map, they were able to deal with it fairly efficiently, and they never looked like they panicked either in trying to find that solution. And that's translated to Nighthaven thus far, which we've only seen one round, so that could absolutely change. But losing that first pick and then still knowing what to pressure and how to do it, and doing it so efficiently, is a great sign for Nighthawks to set themselves up for tons of success on Nighthaven Labs.
And again, I talked about, Nighthaven Labs as a whole. It's a map that kind of traps attacking teams because specifically the walls is, in theory, a simple problem, but if the defense plays it well enough, it's a problem that can cost attacking teams entire rounds. Sometimes you just will not be able to get that wall open because you don't have a multiple point focus from Marquette, only bringing either a Cade or a Bandit throughout these first 2 rounds versus Nighthawks having 4 players with multiple different, whether it be vertical, whether it be a Thatcher. This time around, they won't have that Thatcher, but still having this vertical down below, it's kind of a situation where it really does feel like Marquette is necessarily very ill-prepared, even if Nighthawks this second round are moving relatively a little bit slower at the pace that they know.
Addy again tries to go for the same swing, but they're ready for it this time. Gab gets a 2K from inside a garage as well. So they prepared for this flank in through games that could be deadly. And no, he is not. That is a pick that goes with 2K, but no! That doesn't even happen because he doesn't expect the refrag from Sneaky. They're so prepared for this aggression that Marquette are throwing at them. And now, again, 2-to-1 man deficit with a whole minute to work with. Now we see Ace. Not able to open the wall just yet, but he's sort of working on that. I think he's going to slow down ever so slightly as him gets that pick.
Horrible timing from that jump out is going to cost a kill, but doesn't matter. The trades work perfectly. Brought all of that Nighthawk still with a 2v1 advantage.
Atsu's going to try to fight this guy from the Raptors door, but they've actually got a drone on it. They want to find the information before they go for anything. And they are probably going to be able to grab it. Diffuser is being looked for as well. But Atsu's going to go for the gunfight, and he loses it. Hypno only has a 1 versus 1 that he needs to win to secure this round. When it walks up Raptors, deals a ton of damage with that DMR. Active information denied. It's now Moth gonna swing, and he loses the clutch to Imp. As things are hairy for a long time in that round, but Marquette still pull through off of some individual heroics.
Another round where Marquette were given opportunities. Again, both teams, they lose a lot of these rounds based off just very small individual mistakes, like the mistimed jump out inside of storage, costing the life, allowing for that Bandit to take a gunfight with a player not even looking at him. And then in that 2v1 position, not having the case in the control of the attack,
Defenders,
having
protect
one
your
player
bombs
rotate
from being
over,
defused
and
by
the other player in
attackers.
Raptors getting aggressive too early on, allowing for that Bandit to have 2 separate 1v1s. It's a situation where that player in Raptors just waited for his teammate to get defused, didn't play too aggro, and then force that 2v1. It would have been a really easy round to just, trade that kill. And it's a situation where if you just make those small mistakes over and over and over, that's what costed Marquette 5 rounds, then it's going to be very difficult. I think it's kind of a situation where Nighthawk, they're very quick to adapt, not only against Marquette, but also at their own mistakes, fixing and patching those holes.
5 seconds.
Down to the basement we go.
Attackers must
Seeing
locate and
quite a
defuse the
wide
bomb.
extension across the rest of the map. We have a castle, we have an Oryx. I imagine the Goyle's going to be in on it as well. All to just create a ton of pressure, a pop, and then deny space from those attackers. Just, it's the name of the game on sites like that that are in the bottom and have that control that is necessary. You force the attack to get caught up in all the games you want to play. So by the time they're actually working on what matters, there's only 30 seconds left. Yeah, go.
Again, I'm really surprised. I say this time and time again when I cast collegiate. It's not like an insult, but I am pleasantly surprised on how just mature these teams are. Nighthawks already from the last round understanding that they need to move slower. Just getting this first floor, not just running into the building isolated, making sure that they at least have one player to get that trade. Once they got this control, slowing down, getting this info, because of that, Kudos was able to find the pick onto Imp, and potentially a second one getting that ping onto this Wamai, but Castle rotating up water stairs, looking to potentially apply a little bit of pressure, but he has to walk into 3 different players.
They're going to spot the Oryx and confirm that he is downstairs. But like Goose mentioned, it's that Castle's positioning that I'm really curious about. So it looks like he's going to skulk his way over towards the garage. 2 other players are rotating up vending as well. But they know where the castle is now. They might not know about these players inside of vending. And that could be disastrous as it is thus far. Gap does kill the castle, so there is at least a trade. But Leaf is still in a good position. And they're going to leave Hattie up there as well. As Leaf is going to fake falling off. Because they want to continue this pressure that the attack has to deal with. But Hattie reveals himself. They know exactly where he is. But Toucan has the crossfire. And him, Leaf, they clean things up and give Marquette a very solid round.
Very eerily similar to the first map. Obviously, getting those 2 rounds were completely different, but 2 rounds after winning the first and losing the second, roles are reversed this time around, but Marquette still come up atop 2-1. And that's, again, a round where Nighthawks never had consistent info on where the players were playing. Sure, they had a yellow ping on that Wamai, but Wamai quickly shooting that drone. Never fully aware was, did he push down? Did he stay up there? Exact same thing over by top bending. Fake that fall off the player also in pool playing in tandem. They weren't fully aware of those positions, walking in blind, giving Marquette not necessarily an easy gunfight, but without that info, they had to jump on those attackers, having that advantage. And if, again, I talked about how it doesn't matter whether or not Nighthawks continue to give it, Marquette are going to take advantage, and it just comes down to Nighthawks fixing those small problems.
5 seconds left before insertion.
We have a tertiary site, which is a very good opportunity for Nighthawks to start the problem solving, since it is just kind of by definition of a tertiary site, the one that the defenders are the least confident in of their rotation. And there's a ton of opportunity for some good vertical play, which normally I'd expect to ramp to come out as a result of that, but that doesn't happen, so
It's about to get hot.
I'm going to be relying on the good old-fashioned block.
Sneaky just doing a good job at just doing the dirty work so far in both maps, this entire series overall, continuously playing those hard breach operators, continuously being the very first person to drone in these positions, being that first wave of info. And I think it's something that they need. And also on top of that, holding very steady 2-2. He's not dropping the ball in the kill department. He is really adding that additional presence. Again, it just comes down to these individual decisions, these small mistakes the Nighthawks have made 2 rounds in a row. Another small decision, Kudos, playing 2 isolated, is going to give Toucan a really good opportunity to yet again get the opening pick.
Now Yam tries to compensate, and he falls to Hattie. Which is... But it's just not the position you want to be in here. That's a very over-aggressive swing for him to take. And they do give up a lot of top floor to do it, but they're still in a pretty solid position here, considering the man count they still have.
I mean, a 5v3 position, a minute and 20 though for Nighthawks to work with. They also have complete control of that top floor. They can try and start applying pressure. They don't have any soft breach. They're gonna have to waste utility like the exothermic charges on thermite just to create any kind of holes. And even with that, they still get caught off guard, and this is a round where they're not really finding any opportunities, any, I guess you'd say entries back into this round, and a phenomenal job from Marquette just playing really passive, not giving them any easy opportunities.
Yeah, they have remained stalwart here. Sneaky does manage to find one on to leave. This does reveal where the attackers are coming from, almost a whiff from Moth, but he manages to catch a Keck. Diffuser's gonna go down now. Moth has such good coverage, and Atsu has a solid trade. And he knows where Imp is well. He can try to go for this fight, but the attack wins it somehow. The defense playing in such poor positions after remaining so good for so long.
Wow. I mean, just talk about an overall headache of a round for Marquette. A round where they look like they had a very convincing advantage. Even keep in mind, they had the disadvantage. Then getting 2 huge kills based off that vertical. Keep in mind, due to 2 separate individual players not being well aware of their surroundings and allowing to be picked up with it without even being aware of the attacking players being there. And on top of that, we haven't seen basement, which is well, actually no, we did see basement, but they didn't even get the chance to attack it because the entirety of the round fell down to that first floor. Again, it's a situation where they go back up here, they've won it once, lost it again. It's a situation where you're allowing for Nighthawks to go into an overall defense that's really similar to the past 2 rounds that they attacked, allowing for them to just make those small micro changes.
10 seconds to insertion. 5 seconds remaining.
Both teams each having claimed a round on this top floor site. Both the attackers and defenders have staked their claim. Well, now we're seeing it for the final time this half, as we'll see which team ends up walking away with the third out of that they need. The second out of that they need, rather. As we see a bit of a different lineup from Nighthawks here, we have that Blackbeard, who's going to make a pretty... he's going to make his presence known pretty early on here. Again, trying to counter that bandit tricking and get that wall open as quickly as they possibly can.
Again, I mean, there's a lot of utility, but at the same time, Nighthawks, they have stuff to displace it. They have this Flores to try get rid of castle barricades, get rid of those zombie keeper barriers inside of Raptors. You also have Ash who can do quite a bit of work, even though a lot of the utility, one of those Ash charges going into the vertical to try and clear that position. But nobody's going to be an IT, or at least not a bandit, not a cater, anybody like that. Majority of this focus from the defense is trying to hold this connector wall open, but I'm not exactly sure if that is the best course of action, because a majority of the positions from Nighthawks is going into this Raptors IT push over into the bomb site.
Sama is going to use that keeper barrier to try to isolate this Blackbeard as much as possible. Well, that does not stand for long. Atsu's just going to get out of dodge, however. As now there's a push coming in from IT as well, and Kutso gets a pick off of it. And now the Blackbeard going to look to push in along with that Ash. But they need some sort of counter pressure. There's a ton coming from only one side. It looks like that's going to be the job of Yab and his teammate, and they get a pick off of it successfully. Sneaky's going to fall. They have to get this kill on Talib, who's stuck in between all of these players. He's going to fall to Moth as the rest of the attack just cascades into the bomb site, leaving a Keck alone as he has to fall off, reveal his position by breaking open that barricade and get onto the site with the diffusers on Rafters. The attackers didn't even have control of it, but Moth gets the swing, kills off the last player, and Nighthawks find the solution they need to figure out their attacks yet again and claim a second on that top floor.
I talked about it. It's like I'm a prophet foretelling the future. Nighthawks had no idea. They didn't even try to stick any pressure on IT, or not IT, but Connector. I mean, even before that bandit was over there bandit tricking, they didn't even try to get the wall. There was no semblance of an idea that Marquette could say, oh, we're going for this Connector push. But instead, Nighthawks going for the exact same thing. Trying to clear that Raptors position, trying to get IT wall. They got it for essentially free because the bandit wasn't tricking it. And just all of that presence on the other side of the map, the complete opposite side of where the attack was focusing, was just kind of wasted energy that yet again gave a gap, in a very easy gap for Nighthawks to spot and take advantage of.
Now, the final round
10 seconds left.
of the defensive half for Marquette. And I would argue they've already lost the defensive half with Nighthawks having claimed that third round. You really want that 4-2 going into your attack.
Locate a bomb and
But they
defuse it.
really need this third round in order to have a fighting chance. We saw how solid Nighthawks were able to be on the preferred side for last map. Once they got on the defense on Nighthaven, which is again where they wanted to go, there is a ton of potential for Nighthawks to really run away with this.
Yeah, I do think a 4-2 is very possible here, especially because they're well aware of what happened last time. They're not going to make those simple droning mistakes. You can see that Leaf is waiting for a drone, but he may not be aware that there's actually a Blackbeard in front of him. He also could potentially get a pick over by the hatch, but 4 players over by this kitchen position completely isolate him, and they're just going for the site hit now.
They're just going for it fast, overwhelm the defense before they can possibly react is the name of the game. But Imp does manage to catch one off guard. There is the potential for more. Yes, there is, but Yab has a second kill, and he's equalized things out. There's the potential flank from the castle as well, and from that Oryx, as the attackers are primarily concentrated within the bomb site itself. As Moth is trying to fend off this castle, who he knows is around that kitchen area. They can find Imp. That is a essentially confirmed kill for them because of how low HP he is. Defense is still in solid positions. They have the vertical control. And they get the kill on the Kudzo. And now Imp is going to try to push up to avoid the positioning that Yab has taken. They're just weaving around where these attackers are coming from. Or Moth finally finishes him off.
Attackers recovered the
They've
bomb
reclaimed the diffuser. A defender has fallen through Animus, however. Yab wants to try to plant here. If at all possible. Although they're going to be cautious. One defender in the bomb site. Another trying to work it from above. They know that he's inside of Animus. Yeah, I'm going to go for a planting tube. There's an easy pick onto him here. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Hattie has that pick.
Attackers have recovered
And now
their
Moth
diffuser.
has to clutch out a 1 versus 2. He's going to try to go for a pick onto Hattie first. But does he know where he is? Hattie has perfect positioning in that late round, and he shuts down that fast play and closes things out. 3-3 ends this opening half.
You know, that's a win. That's a win for the Nighthawks, in my opinion. 3-3 half
yeah.
on the attack. Not only for Nighthaven Labs, but for how it played. I mean, honestly, it could have very well been a 4-2, a 5-1 half for Marquette. But they were able to just, have that, consistent confidence, fix their mistakes, always be in a clear headspace. Aside from that last round, I think that last half, their situational awareness was just poor, to say it nicely. It gave so many
Defenders,
easy
protect your
opportunities.
bombs
That's a
from being
round
used by
where Nighthawks should have just ran in, got that easy 3v1, weren't aware that the vertical was still being held by the defense, even though they had a
Bomb
drone. They
located
were
by
well aware that
attackers.
there was 2 defenders on that first floor. And I think it's just kind of this things where they just weren't thinking exactly right at the moment in time, and it costed them a very easy round, in my opinion.
Yeah, that last round was kind of strange. I won't lie. But, that's okay. It's what we love this game for. Tomfoolery is afoot
10 seconds
in
to go.
given moments. But what I really want to see is how Nighthawks
5 seconds
translate
to go.
to the defense. So I think what we've seen so far is that their understanding of
Attackers are
Nighthaven
heading out to defuse
is
the
quite
bomb.
good. Given the rounds that they have lost, there's been a very clear kind of idea they've been going for. They've always been trying to problem solve their way out of things. And given that, again, they've already won their opponent's map pick, there's a lot of potential for them to get a ton of mileage out of this.
You can see this time around Marquette be leaning on the Monty, something that we saw not a whole lot from Nighthawks. Already sneaky, understanding the idea in place here is around, instead of a Ashe, they're going to be bringing a Zofia, which I don't hate. You know, getting that immediate impact rather than that sound cue gives a little bit less time for Sneaky to really react. But again, the exact same thing, the exact same solution happened, just getting that wall open. That's the exact same point. Doesn't matter if it's an Ashe, a Zofia, or just, you know, somebody throwing a nade there. Eventually that wall will be opened, and with only a minute wasted, not a whole lot of utility wasted from Marquette there in that situation, only just using one of those impacts from Zofia, but they still have to worry about this roam presence, something that we didn't necessarily see from Marquette, and I don't exactly sure if Nighthawks are fully aware.
And on the bright side for Marquette is, even if they're unaware of it, it is a vigil, so the tomfoolery is limited by a decent bit. Especially with Kudzo getting picked off by Imp, although Yab is going to tag on for one. Get a refrag onto Hattie. And that leaves the Monty by himself, trying to work his way in toward the site. And the defenders aren't afraid to be aggro, aren't afraid to get in his face. As Moth has revealed himself, the attackers are trying to go for this. But what are you looking at, Sneaky? Imp gets the second kill that he has of this round. And that's going to open up a ton of room on the top floor site for these attackers. Monty's going to make his way in, but Yab has the refrag. Yab has a triple kill this round. And that leaves a room for a quadra kill even with that shotgun on the Warden. What phenomenal play from Yab.
I was so scared that Yav wouldn't have just poked his head up and allowed for that Monty to get an easy 1v1. But again, it's just that small little mistake of not being aware of that additional player inside of control that costed you the entirety of that round. Vigil, also, not really a full semblance that Marquette was 100% aware of not only their Vigil being on board, but of his position overall. And you could see Marquette moved very fast through that IT position, not giving that Vigil that first initial opportunity to get the kill, but then working his way up water to help support that player inside of command. Again, it's just the small details that are really costing these teams. And I think something that we haven't really talked about is that dwindling drone economy. Nighthawks doing a phenomenal job of making sure that going into the later half, the later 45 to 30 seconds, that Marquette do not have an opportunity to have a lot of drones in their pocket to get additional info.
Seconds left.
Still kind of in awe of that play.
5 seconds.
But I was talking to Goose about it between maps, and I've actually teamed with Yab before, way back on Aerials, and developed a player called Jin. So getting to cast in Collegiate is kind of fun, and getting to cast in former team doing well in Collegiate is also quite a bit of fun. I'm interested to see how Moth does on this top floor. He gets thrown down and he pretty immediately falls, which, given that there's now a Monty up there, probably the right idea. He almost has a pick onto the player with the Monty, but smartly, he's going to fall back here. He doesn't want to give Marquette the opportunity to isolate him and corner him with the shields they brought.
Yeah, that's a huge miss, but it also doesn't really have that much of an effect in the round because he's still going to be playing spoilers on the roam, being paired with both Yab and then the additional teammate on that Legion. So still, that roam hasn't fully been cleared out. They still, doesn't even look like they were fully aware of this visual over inside of Kitchen. Sure, they have that Jackal track on the Yab, but it doesn't really get you a whole lot of control aside from over in this cargo position. And again, it's just going to come down to the individual decision making from Moth, if he's going to be able to react in timely fashion or if he gives the attack too much time to set up this vertical.
By the way he's playing this, though, honestly, he is, I mean, still in an aggressive position just by virtue of the fact that he's up here alone effectively, but he's playing it quite passively. He's specifically not trying to overplay his hand. And now that Gab has fallen off, the assumption from the attack is probably going to be that the defense has fallen back. And if they're unaware of Gab's or of Moth's positioning as a result, that's huge for the defense.
Yeah, Marquette haven't been able to find an entry pick going into this execution. It's going to not only give even more value to Moth's overall position, but it's just going to make this overall execution a lot more harder because now the defense has the opportunity. They have the advantage of having a healthy 5-man count.
5 versus 5 executes are always a challenge. Moth hasn't found a flank pick on that roam, but he's gotten back to the site. And he is playing spoiler for the attack, trying to get someone in through that vending position. And the attack are starved for information here, using grenades. Try to clear out a little bit of that. As Atsu has found where this Blackbeard is, there's a goo in his foot, but the diffuser's going down for Marquette. Sneaky gets that opening pick, or it's refragged by Imp. As now Leaf is trying to contest these players in the hallway, trying to collapse onto Imp, but he manages to find the first. Can he get the second? No, he does not. Things are equalized yet again, as now we see the defense truly trying to mount an attack onto this Monty. But look at this play from Toucan. Bob kills his teammate. He does get a refrag onto Toucan, but there's so much time being wasted with the shields up. It's gonna be all for naught here in just a second. This Moth can no longer win the round, no matter what he does kill-wise. So the attack is just gonna go for it. It's now Marquette. They've equalized things yet again.
Yeah, a round where Nighthawks, they had so many different opportunities and gaps to take advantage of, but they simply didn't have the confidence to fully lean into that aggression. The Vigil on that roam had so many opportunities. At one point, only one player on that vertical roam while the attack was resetting their positions to go for that plant over inside of Pillar. But because he didn't take advantage of it, because he fell down to bottom Animus waiting for the attack to come to him, was a missed opportunity. That Blackbeard being completely isolated, that Legion not having the full confidence to completely ISO, especially with the Monty being completely distracted. So many opportunities for not only Nighthawks to win it, but win it very convincingly. It's just the confidence that was lacking.
I find it interesting that they're continuing the rotation.
Attackers have located
instead
a
of
bomb.
going back down. Although, honestly, on this map, all 4 sides are viable. I mean, even Kitchen, although it isn't seen as much as the other 3, is perfectly viable, provided you are able to play around the fact that the attack is probably going to get a lot of mileage out of them no matter what. And much like Kitchen on Chalet, there is going to be a lot of emphasis placed on the flooring above the site here, which means that Nighthawks are going to look to protect the nail. Marquette are going to put a ton of emphasis on that before they go for the site itself.
I think, even without a lot of info, going into that execution for Marquette, they had 4 drones. They didn't really even necessarily use them. It was just the lapse of judgment and just honestly the lapse of a hurry from the Nighthawks to really do anything that gave them the opportunities. It's not like they spotted those gaps and took advantage of them. They just kind of, I don't want to say walked in and got lucky, but it's a situation where if they didn't use that info, the Nighthawks just had a little bit more of that confidence, then it's a round that could have been completely turned around, and that's something that's going to be have to really look at, because look, only 2 drones available. One is muted a minute into the round. So much utility, or not utility, but info that just is completely off the board. For the rest of this entire round, Marquette, they're going to have to go in blind.
And if the defense realizes this, there's a ton of potential to play into that. Just rat in corners, play in weird crossfires, hold off angles, just do anything you can. Because the attack probably isn't going to find you severely lacking until they found themselves with. You see a Buck go down below to try to tear up the floor as much as possible. But he is killed off through his own vert, because as Antero once said, those holes go both ways. Moth's bullets go towards the head of Imp. Because that's now a ton of pressure placed on these last remaining attackers.
And they're also completely disconnected. And again, that info game just completely triples into an even bigger threat now, because not only do you have a deficit, but in a position where players have to take singular engagements. They have to try to find an advantage one way or another, and still with a relatively soft lurk over by Kitchen in games, there's so many positions where Marquette can be caught off guard.
Exactly like I was predicting. They're just sitting in rat corners. Sneaky gets one, Yab gets another. And everything's left up to Hattie, but Atsu makes himself known finally, walking over one of the last remaining drones. And that is Nova Nighthawks taking their second defense this half and putting themselves up by 4. They're within spitting distance of winning this series.
Yeah, and specifically on maps where you have to do a very heavy roam clear, it's very rare times where you see like that control and servers position or bomb site that we're going to now, where you see that drone economy be dwindled down, especially so early on. Even when it is, it's
Attackers
not
need to
necessarily
locate
the
and
biggest
defuse
of
bombs.
deals, because essentially when you go to execution, you can just kind of guess 15 what positions are being held. But it really was just overall that heavy extension game that was punishing Marquette, and
Bomb
now they get
located
the
by
opportunity.
attackers.
They get the favor of going to a bomb site where you don't really need to heavily clear those offsite positions. But we've seen that the Nighthawks absolutely love to play that first floor and play spoilers from below.
Yeah, they're very willing to just be in the
10
face
seconds remaining.
of their opponents. We've seen it a lot with Moth playing that Vigil. Although Yab's also gotten quite a few
seconds
digs in, even if he has been a site anchor. And that does,
Attackers
combined
are
with the
moving
fact
to the
the
bomb.
last couple rounds, the drone economy from Marquette has been very lackluster. It's such a toxic combination to deal with, because you have people swinging you, trying to make you uncomfortable, combined with a lack of information to properly find and isolate them. It isn't a really good hurt Marquette if Nighthawks are really able to lean into it properly.
I'm not a big fan of this Monty on this position here, because I think you can just really speed up the process. Talk about speeding up the process. Sneaky taking Hattie's head off and removing the entire capability to get that from below. Sure, you could maybe shoot it, but then you got to ISO that position, potentially risk another pick, and then you also see that Moth just gonna walk away. He doesn't need to play in that position anymore. He doesn't need to apply any pressure, because heck, they lost that. They're also potentially not even going to be able to get this wall open. Sure, you do have the stature, but you also have Sneaky still in IT, and then Kudos just serves up an easy pick on a platter.
All I could realize was the Monty that came after him in that position, which is unfortunate. That does let Toucan get a pick back. Although the position for the attack still isn't really great, as there is still a lot of presence the defense has both on and off the site. Moth is completely unaccounted for right now by the looks of things. And the information game is still not really where it needs to be, with only 4 drones left standing. Some of those could have potentially been in the pocket of Hattie when he died.
Yeah, that is just really tough. And then just another drone shot out using this Monty yet again as another spearhead, but that loud bash onto the doorway is going to be an alarm for those defenders to mark back, and a really good opportunity for Yav to potentially find an easy pick, as majority of these players from Marquette are stacked up on top water.
We are seeing some emphasis placed on other areas of the map by the defense, as they want to figure out exactly where all of these players are. Moth is poking at bottom water here. This is a lot of great pressure for him. Gab could be in trouble, however, because they're coming at him from multiple sides. Imp has his second kill, but Atsu comes right back. They have the visual in place on Raptors as well. Monty does successfully plant that diffuser. Akek gets the kill onto Sneaky, as now Atsu tries to get aggressive, but he doesn't even get one, as the vigil is completely impactless as well. Once that diffuser goes down, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, another round where Marquette understood that there was a heavy roam. You could even see that Flores making his way down to the halfway point of water stairs to potentially get rid of that vigil, but they never fully leaned in to clearing that roam after they lost the Zofia, rather just trying to find one weak point on the bomb site to just brute force that Monty and try and get the plan down, which eventually they did inside of command, but you don't get that opportunity again. You got to go
Attackers
back
need
to a
to
bomb
locate
site
and
where you
defuse
have
as
to
many
do
bombs as they
that full
can.
clear. That now going to be this basement bomb site, something that Nighthawks actually had a little bit of difficulty, but simply just down to making a couple of poor decisions and not having that confidence.
It has been very interesting watching the rounds get traded back and forth like this. This was completely unexpected from me, at the very least. And there have been a couple situations where it kind of looks like whichever team is loses that round kind of
10
is in
seconds remaining.
control until things kind of come crashing down.
5 seconds left before insertion.
Although, because it's 5-5, we'll need at the very
Attackers
least
are moving out
all
to locate
12
a bomb.
rounds of regulation to finish out this map. Although I'd imagine that we're probably going to need overtime as well at this rate.
And again, I think it's kind of a situation where we're now seeing a much closer game. Obviously, overtime was close, but it's a situation where Marquette had a very heavy lead and then just dropped the ball. Moth dropping the ball in a position that he played before. Marquette also playing against it very similarly like how they did again. A team that consistently doesn't adapt. In Marquette, they're not going to make that same opportunity of allowing that vigil to go completely untraded. Also not allowing Yab to go back down to the bomb site in Marquette with a very early lead, a 5v3 at that, putting the pressure so far on this defense.
Drawn out Atsu as well. And they're going to try to go after him. They're going to surround him here as well, which is going to make his life effectively null and void here in his seconds. Unless he's able to pull something truly magical off. What? The player's not looking at it, but Imp turns in time. And the last two defenders, they're off the site as a result. They need to make something happen here. As we're approaching the end of this map, Sneak is going to try to fight whoever drops from rafters, but he isn't quite able to get the pick. He just reveals his position. And now, Hattie, he's made this a 1 versus 5 for Kudso, sitting inside of games. They're not even bothering going for the site. At least not fully. They're going to try to isolate him as much as they can. They have complete control now. Diffuser's going down. Blackbeard harassing the last player. Along with his teammate, Hattie has the swing. And that is Marquette putting themselves on map points on Nighthaven Labs.
Nighthawks really struggling on the defense here. Again, it's just down to the simple fact of not being able to read into the trend. That round, a very heavy push onto that top floor. 2 players falling off way later than they needed to, giving easy 2 opening kills for Marquette. And I think it's a situation where they're doing the exact same thing that Marquette did on their own map pick. And we've seen that not only have the Nighthawks been able to adapt round in and round out, in even small micro changes in specific rounds, but we've seen it in this map specifically. And it's kind of a situation where you just don't have that confidence. You're trying to overstay your position because you don't exactly know where you are. You're not bringing the info operators to change that.
But I gotta take issue with the way they've been playing the roams at this point. 'Cause at first it worked really well, but Marquette have read your book
10
now.
seconds remaining.
They're on the same chapter as you. They're no longer playing catch-up. And with the
5
Legion
seconds
pick,
to
it
go.
does look like they're going to switch things up a little bit, but they were so committed to that game plan
Attackers
for
are
so
heading out
long.
to defuse a bomb.
It just, even really, when it wasn't properly working for them. Although hopefully, now Moth is going to be looking at playing a little bit less overzealous, a little bit more in control, so they can keep that count up and not play right into Marquette's hands.
It's a really nice skin on Zophia's gun. I don't even know what skin that is, but actually talk about something on topic. Look at what Marquette is doing. The exact same thing. Bringing that Monty, bringing the Zofia, try and push out the bandit in this IT position. But this time around, Monty changing things up completely, aggroing onto this roamer, that being Moth. Yet again, another round where Moth loses that opening pick so early on, only a minute into the round. He's off the board, and they've already been able to apply pressure onto this bandit.
Still gonna try to go for that trick, but it just ends up getting him killed off. That's another round where the picks start to go out of control in the favor of Marquette. As now they just have to open up enough angles to properly pressure out this site. Hudzo's in a very awkward position. He's gonna get the hell out. And then he's gonna try to reinforce off rafters to try to preserve some semblance of control of his team. As now Yab wants to get aggressive, but they're on that because they have the spare bodies to hold those off angles. Now the
On top of
Monty
that,
trying to get in. Go ahead, sir.
No. I was just gonna say, oh, kudos. That's big.
He's big. It's huge, even.
What?
As he gets two from behind the desk in command. Monty has the pick on him now because his legs are too long. But his impact, it'll be felt if the rest of the Nighthawks can secure this. The next target is Yab, however, whose presence is known by the Monty, but he gets the pick onto a Keck before he's killed off. As now it's Atsu. Left alone in a 1 versus 2. He has an idea where the Thatcher is. But Thatcher's just going to hold the crossfire so Monty can plant. And that's going to put so much time pressure on him. He doesn't know where the Thatcher is. He's going to get downed and then finished off by Imp. As in overtime, or regulation this time.
Almost.
Marquette University claim their opponent's map pick and bring us to a map 3.
I mean, both of these teams are just going neck for neck. Overtime on our very first map, nearly overtime, a very huge hero play, 2 kills, but eventually that player felt. And I think it's a situation where, I mean, it's tooth and nail. Every round, the team, or both opponents are getting one up. They're adapting. And honestly, going on the bank, I don't know which way this is going to go. I do think it's going to be a very close one, at least maximum regulation.
I mean, at this point, it's got to be. Although we have technically been trending downwards in rounds, so who knows? That being said, though, I'm going to give everyone in the server, as well as in the production, a little bit of a break to get things set up and grab some water for the next map. So you should do so as well. But again, don't go anywhere too far, because we have more NECC for you.
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's something in there, dude. Just leave it.
Are you kidding me?
We'll just head to us. Just leave it.
The hell with that.
Oh, yeah, there's something in there. Ah!
Want one?
Thank you.
It was worth it.
Oh, man, this is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Hey, man, grab me a meat stick.
I think I can reach it if I just a little more. Just let me go a little. I can't. Just a little more. I almost got it. Careful! Oh God! No, come on, just reach. Just grab my hand. Grab my hand.
Give me the meat stick. This other hand's closer. The one with the stick is. Oh. What am I supposed to say?
It doesn't matter. He's dead. He ain't listening to you anyway.
I'm hungry.
No. Put it away. I can't watch it. Oh, crap. Just reach in. gotta pull it. Just grab it. Just take it out of his hand. You just. What do you mean you can't?
Let go.
What do you mean you won't let go? He's dead.
Help me. Get in there. Now just hold on.
Make him let go of it. No, I got you. Just go in for a hug. Go and get on in there. It's a bad loss. Yeah, hug him. Hug him up. Just reach. Hug him up.
He's breathing. On the other side.
Go.
I can't.
Just-
I can't do it. Help!
Help me, Lord. Help me get over this loss.
I can't breathe.
Hey, I can't breathe. I'm so upset. I can't breathe. Stop. You knock on wood so they go to heaven. It's like a lucky. Hey, get the stick.
Yeah.
Hey, did you get the meat stick?
Yeah, I got it.
Hey, just hold tight for a second. They're moving the casket. Just hold tight.
Yeah, that's no worries. I got it.
What exactly is plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. 100% pure protein-packed power in a stick. I want Wenzel's Farm. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. What exactly is a meat substitute or plant-based jerky? Call me a meathead, but when I want a meat snack, I want real meat. The kind you find at Wenzel's Farm and the only kind they use. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked right here in the heartland of America. Wenzel's Farm offers 14 flavors of mouth-watering protein-packed power in a stick, except no substitute. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. Looking for something to power your day? Then look no further than Wenzel's Farm Snack Sticks. Handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked, these protein-packed power sticks deliver truly sustainable energy. Wenzel's Farm, real meat for real life. You work hard and play hard. You need real fuel to power your day. Not some tofu stuffed rice cake or plant-based meat substitute. No, you need honest-to-goodness, homegrown, protein-packed power in a stick. You need Wenzel's Farm. Quality cuts of meat handcrafted in small batches and naturally hardwood smoked for a great-tasting snack that delivers real energy. Power up and put the smack down on whatever your day brings with Wenzel's Farm. Real meat for real life.
What do you make of this up here? Just showed up in the yard a couple days
Has a
ago.
dog been digging in here?
I don't think so, dude. That goes way down in there. Seriously, did you just lose your meat stick?
Yeah.
Our producer just screamed at me. It caught me very off guard. I had a flashback, dude. Anyways, welcome back. The Division 3 Nationals semifinals, Marquette University versus Nova Nighthawks. And for those of you who might have missed out on the previous maps, which, I mean, where were ya?
Yeah.
I'll give Goose a chance to kind of give a little bit of a recap for how things are going so far.
I mean, honestly, very entertaining. First map, you saw Nova lose their own map pick on Chalet in overtime, and then we go on to their opponent's map pick, and we go to max regulation, and they lose their own map pick, and now we go all the way over to Bank, which all three maps relatively play completely different from each other, and this is probably one of the points where both teams have consistently made mistakes over and over, different mistakes even from map to map, and I can't really go out of my way to say that one team has the upper hand on the other.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, like you said, Bank plays so differently to the other two. Like, the things that are going to be rewarded and punished are kind of out of whack compared to the previous two. It's very difficult to look at this and concretely say who you think is going to do better. The Nighthawks are on defense first, although actually that has been an indicator of who's won thus far, so if that trend continues... Okay. I lied. It's actually Marquette. The graphic is lying to all of us, or my producer is lying to me. So we'll all get to figure out together, I guess.
We'll find out when we go to the bad phase. What better way could you have it? But I mean, again, like it's not just one clear problem that both teams have had. Even in like, it's not even just like one problem per map. Like both teams, have had certain problems going into executions, have had problems getting info, and then have problems of confidence. It's problem after problem, and I think it's also stemming from just all three maps, specifically the two maps, the only maps we've been able to have an opportunity to watch, playing so different. And I think it's kind of a idea where these problems aren't down to the system that both teams have. It's just simply down to problems they have on these specific maps.
You're not down with the system, Goose?
I'm not down with the system. Hello, chat. Hello, Imp.
Let's keep it a
You
Scumpy. I
don't see the
appreciate it.
pregame.
Yep. Cool bug fact for the players. We do not see anything that happens before the ban phase, so if you're typing to us, we will not see it.
Dude's in chat for the other team. I like that Monty Man. That's also something. Throughout all maps, we've seen different maps. Let's get a poll going on the chat mods. All right, NECC, you putting these mods to work. I mean, honestly, I gotta give prop to him. But again, I mean, throughout every map, not only have we been seeing teams play differently, there hasn't been a set system for either team. The bans also have not been set in stone. Phenomenal bans from Nighthawks to start off, not only banning the Monty, something that Marquette used consistently on Nighthaven Labs, but also banning Amira, an operator that has so much use on the defense. And honestly, I think Nighthawks are going to be in a very well position to start off because a Habana, man, in my opinion, versus a Monty, especially on how Marquette used it on their attack over Nighthaven Labs, I think that's a situation where Nighthawks got the upper hand.
I'm going to agree there, although all speculation in the world means nothing until we're actually in the game. Now, Bank, you can stop me if you disagree, Goose, but I feel it is a map that really rewards cohesion and an ability to work efficiently, and you have to do both of those things
your
at
bombs
once.
from being used by
There are a
attackers.
lot of steps that have to be completed, and all of those steps will fall apart if you're not doing them together. And so that, to me, is going to be one of the early signifiers that we're really need to look out for both of these teams, is who can play that cohesion the best.
And I think there's also kind of a thing where both teams struggle and have success together. We've seen round after round for both teams. I'm not even calling out one specific team where one tiny individual mistake from just one player can cost the entire round for the whole entire team.
5 seconds.
And that is bad. You shouldn't have an entire round be based off of just one player making a poor decision and then allowing for one player on your opponent's side to go absolutely huge. We've seen round in round, individual players have hero rounds based off of the fact of just small, simple mistakes, either missing opportunities. We've seen a lot of siege timing too tonight. I mean, a couple of falls at the wrong time, a couple of players looking away at the wrong time. Again, it's just kind of a tale of this.
Yeah, siege timing is, honestly, I find it quite a humorous concept that you can just say, oh, that's siege timing. And people just kind of know what you're trying to say. And it allows us to shorthand some of the, obtuse timing moments that we have seen on the broadcast. As we see Nighthawks try to make good timing of their own here on this clear of the first 2 floors of the building, so they can start trying to properly work the site itself, because there is a lot to do to get a foothold.
I'm trying to look at what I'm supposed to take notes on. I don't know if he was talking about like a specific like use of utility or like a strat, or if he was
But
about
it
to go
is exam
huge.
season.
It is. That also could be it. I mean, it is overall a very stressful season of the year, and Marquette, you feeling a lot of that stress falling off that realm relatively quickly. They don't want to try and force the issue too much. They understand they have a lot of useful utility like these hatches. Okay, press the wrong key, I guess. You have like a lot of these hatches, castle barricades to clear, so there's still a lot of work for this attack to do that doesn't need the defense to be right in front of their faces to waste time.
So only about a minute left here, which, I mean, obviously anything's possible. We've seen that tonight, as we have in every game of Rainbow Six. But it doesn't bode well for Nighthawks,
Bomb located.
as there's a Tachanka and Smoke, both in combination on the board, which is so much effective time denial that is going to be playing very far back into the site, so it can't properly be dislodged. That's gonna hurt. As we go into these last 30 seconds, great timing has to be made. Ying Candelas go out, the Twitch drops, the lobby hatch gets inside a gold, but a castle barricade is going to halt a lot of that momentum. As the attack just have to get in as quick as they can. Sneaky does get a pick, so does Moth. They're actually planning inside of lockers here as the defense tries to make a comeback onto the site. As it could be a huge play from the Aruni, but he only gets it down before he's killed off. As the Smoke now gets another one. It's a 1 versus 1 between him and Yab. And Yab has the advantage. That DMR at such a long range. And now Yab has to come to him as he's just gonna stick this plant and hope that he can get it in time. But Yab with the wall bang finishes things off. And that is Nighthawks cutting it close, but still coming out victorious in the end.
I mean, again, there's a lot of these rounds where I say teams specifically on the defense make a lot of mistakes. Just not being able to read into executes. That's exactly what Marquette did in that round specifically. But at the same time, Nighthawks did a phenomenal execution. Not only did they have that confidence to go right into the bomb site, take those gunfights that were needed without 100% info to back it up, but also having that crossfire with the Dokkaebi on the DMR all the way inside of Garage,
Attackers
then
need to
cut off
locate
those
and
players that
defuse
were
bombs.
still inside of the opposite bomb site, trying to rotate their way over to apply pressure and eventually defuse that bomb. It's, again, that small thing. If you didn't have that Dokkaebi there, in my opinion, that's a round one for the defense. But it's just one small attention to detail that Nighthawks missed and essentially costed them the entirety of that round. Okay.
So far, that's both of the replacements. Zinglu misclicking with thrown utility.
Is there a glitch? Like,
10 seconds to insertion.
maybe just schizo. It's been a long day.
maybe.
It's been a long night.
It has been a long day. I mean, a long week even. I mean, exam season,
To locate a bomb and
division
defuse it.
finals, Titanfall 3 was canceled again. Like, it's just endless.
I mean, it really is. Like, like, how many times can we go through the same cycle? How many times can we see teams not read in to a specific call, play? How many times can we see respawn? We don't want any more not RPG, sorry, but got the name of the type of game, Fortnite. We don't want Fortnite copies, but you know what I want in this round? I want to see Marquette actually react. And again, we talked about how teams playing together has been very important so far, especially leading on to the second map, because a lot of the rounds did simply fall down to the execution phase. But it's just simply these simple positions. Clearing out utility. Yet again, Marquette has done a phenomenal job at just applying utility after utility on these extended positions. And yet again, especially like a position on stock with a shield, 2 players playing behind it, there's a lot for this attack.
Really trying to work on this player inside of stock, as well as the player adjacent to stock. So that's a lot of good control to have. Hattie does over-reveal himself a little bit, but he doesn't end up dying for it. And they really don't have a great thing in place to dislodge the player that's on the floor inside of stock. And that alone is exerting a ton of pressure onto the attack. That's also the Wamai, which means there is just more potential for him to waste time, but Sneaky gets the opening kill. That's gonna prompt him to jump in. Kudos has to get the refrag there, but he does do so successfully. So now there's about a minute left here for Nighthawks to get into the sites and work space for a plant again. Actually, hold on, they're just going for that right now off of the sense, but there's a bulletproof camera looking at the attackers here, and that almost allows a retake onto the plant, as it is successfully going to go down. The attacker on the man advantage, at least momentarily, as now they have to hold this off from a combination of square and the rappels on the site, as it's going to be a jump out onto the rappel. Maybe a second as well, as they have to kill this attacker. But no, he's able to just get behind the bomb. But he's killed off regardless. He tries to get off as Nighthawks. They've worked this little map control they could get so flawlessly in these past couple rounds.
I mean, I've talked about how individual mistakes have costed rounds. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I am like almost 100% sure that if he just stuck behind the bomb chassis and defused the bomb, he would not have been able to be seen by that OS on the window. Obviously, he could swing and try to ISO for the kill, but I think he started that defuse long enough where if he just sticked it and he didn't try to play aggro and force that gunfight, he would have won the round. Again, please, whether it be a co-caster or anybody in chat, but it's not even, I was going to say siege time, it's not even a thing of siege time, it's just like poor decision making. That cost of the round, obviously, much different than one player having a huge round. It's a 1v1, you know, those go 50-50. But again, it's just a situation where if he just played passive, he would have won the round, and Nighthawks would have gotten their second.
Back down to the basement we go. Again. Avoiding the tertiary site, not completed the full rotation just yet.
10
As
seconds.
you do see what looks like it's going to be perhaps a little bit more extended than
5
before,
seconds
although I
remaining.
actually think it's a pretty similar setup. And it, I mean, I think they really just need to play it differently, because that last time, Marquette or Nighthawks just kind of figured out where the denial wasn't, and they attacked that. And Marquette didn't have a good answer for it. This time, there just needs to be that awareness, not only of lockers, but that Nighthawks, if you have a weakness, they're going to see it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's one thing, even throughout all the mistakes on the second map, Nighthawks still did a consistently good job at spotting the gaps, spotting the mistake of Marquette. Just came down to a couple of positions where they didn't have that confidence to react off of it. Again, it's a situation where Nighthawks fully understand if they're given control, if they're given anything, whether it be a relatively easy pick, easy 1vx position, or right now the entirety of the top floor, then more than likely Marquette is just going to fall off this extension into open area, and they're going to take it. And I think it's something that Marquette has not really read into perfectly. They haven't understood that they can try to apply a little pressure, that they need to try and waste as much time as possible, and because of that, they've just given a lot of easy time to the attack. Oh.
Kudzo drops down and he gets the pick onto Hattie. He is downed in the process. He's perfectly recoverable, but it is quite the proposition, as at best they could hope for a refrag, which Sneaky does get. And that is a ton more advantage than they had the previous time they went into the execute on this site.
Leafs still in a very pivotal position. You also have a Keck inside of garage. There's still a lot of close in on-site positions that the defense has control of. That if they can maybe even get one pick or potentially force an execution with this control still in their favor, this is a round where they can just kind of claw back, force Nighthawks into very uncomfortable gunfights, especially with no info. Eventually they'll have the drones. They're going to use the drones. Again, a completely contrast from Marquette is that going these execution phase, the drone economy for Nighthawks have been very healthy, which is giving them a lot of info.
The execution looks like it's going to be a similar affair to last time, and Imp has realized that. That's where he's focusing his utility this time. And because there's only about 30 seconds left, that is extremely dangerous. Smoke is tagging on as well. Sneaky wants to make his way in toward the site yet again. Gonna throw out a flashbang, get into the site, and start the plant yet again. But Tachanka's trying to come after him though, and they don't realize that Imp is on a double kill here. He denies that plant. That's oh so important. There's only 10 seconds left. Yab is on a flank. Moth has been killed off. And Yab has a 1 versus 2 with less than 5 seconds. He will only get one in that
Operators, you have run out of
situation.
time.
A momentary lapse in judgment is what ends up giving that round over towards Marquette University.
Poor Imp. Guys, that hurts. And I think it's also a situation where we've seen round after round, specifically that one where we go into an execution and both teams have not only healthy but evened out man counts, and we've very rarely seen from the start of map 2 now going here on to bank for our third map, specifically attacking teams going into executions
Attackers need
with
to locate
healthy
and
man
defuse
counts
as many bombs as they
punished
can.
a lot of the times. Obviously, you do have a 4v3. You had all the info on the board, but again, just individual lapse of judgments, simple mistakes. That one Ash that was supposed to be covering his teammate planting because he just was looking the complete other way, cost not only 2 kills, but also the diffuser going down.
Yeah, but you talk about it a lot going into this map, but small mistakes that happen in the moment are really
10 seconds to go.
very prominently featured in this map thus far.
5 seconds left.
Both teams have had them, although Marquette have had more mistakes like that
Attackers'
thus
objective
far.
is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
And that is, I mean, on bank, I'd argue that's going to be punished more than it would be on a map like Nighthawks or Shell, just because of how it's constructed. And so that's really is where you need to clean that up.
We into this Zofia. We've seen a lot of Zofia today. You don't really see Zofia in this current meta, especially with the just amount of recoil she has, and also just, you know, Ash kind of has, you know, a better gun, especially with lower recoil. But I think it's kind of a situation where we've seen from the, I guess you could say, middle half of map 2, teams starting to lean into that, I guess you could say, unconventional style play, not only in the operator choices, but specifically just how they approach certain situations. You can see, again, Nighthawks more than well aware on how to just util dump on these extended positions with defender utility. But this is a position where there's 2 crucial mistakes from the defense that
Attackers
gave
have
2
located a bomb.
early picks to Nighthawks. But this time around, Marquette is making sure that they play a lot more passive and force Nighthawks to come to them.
We're seeing some spread out pressure here from Nighthawks, although Addy's the first one to get a pick as he kills off Atsu. Moth gets the refrag onto Toucan, however, and getting the zombie off the board is always something that's going to be appreciated. They've also maintained complete control of the opening kill this far into the game. As Hattie yet again tries to get aggressive, but is almost killed off. And that actually leaves a lot of potential open space on the top floor. The attack can look to go for.
Cam ready.
Yeah, but losing that Osa is going to be so crucial. Kudos just can't hit the mark. And Marquette, they take a 2 or 4v2, now a 3v2.
Has been dropped.
Now it's a 1v3. So it's all left up to Moth. The aforementioned Zofia sitting on those square windows now has to jump in. Try to clutch this out. See if anyone will reveal themselves. Does not have control of the diffuser. And him being a 3 armor, he's going to move around very slowly and very loudly as well. So this skulking could potentially be less effective. Shot gives away his position as well. Tries to go for a wallbang. Doesn't quite hit it. Goes for the castle. Kills the castle. And he knows where another one is. Knows that a player's on marble stairs. Gonna go for the second gunfight, and he wins it. He only needs to find one more.
10 seconds
And he
to go.
knows where Imp
Attackers
is,
have
but he's
recovered
on
their
such low HP. Can he win the gunfight out regardless? Gonna try to wait. But Imp, he's just gonna run that time down, and he can go in with no repercussions
Operators, we're out
now.
of time.
Almost a clutch from Moth. But Imp is just patient enough.
Yeah, I mean, a phenomenal play there from him, understanding that he had the advantage, that whether or not that Zofia chose to go for that 1v1 or go for the plant, that either one, he could just run down those stairs, waste the time, and then not allow for that Zofia to go for the plant. But then after they heard us talking about Fortnite. What? What? Okay, thank you, Imp. I guess he's watching the stream as he's playing. But again, and even if he didn't go for that gunfight and he went for the defuse like he just did, he didn't have enough time, and all Imp had to do was wait just a couple of seconds and then shoot him. It's kind of a situation where we talked about the mistakes from individual players. That is a perfect round from Imp on an individual play, completely understanding both win factors.
Now we've seen the trading return that we saw on the second map, although a little different this time. It's
10 seconds remaining.
It's 2 rounds in a row, then 2 rounds in a row for each team respectively.
5 seconds to go.
As now we're seeing our first appearance of a tertiary site come out this map,
Attackers must locate and
which is
defuse
going
the
to
bomb.
be what you all expect in open area and staff. And Leaf is gonna have an aggressive spawn peek here that isn't gonna net anything. But a lot of the times with those plays, it's more about the mental effect of exerting that pressure than it is the actual kills.
Yeah, he's on a dog too. Yeah, his position right now is just to waste as much time, potentially take a pick with him. Even how he's playing this position inside of Janitor's Closet, he's just here to waste time. He wants to make his position known. Also, you have Imp inside of stock, being paired with the Key Village, and another person all the way on top of Marble. Such a heavy roam presence. Not a whole lot of utility, maybe a couple of keeper barriers, but aside from that, nothing really stopping this Blackbeard from making his way in.
Looks like they do really want Imp out of this position. And he's actually going to get killed off because Atsu just goes right in. And now the next target they're worried about is going to be that Doc instead of Stock, who's just going to opt to get the hell out of dodge. As the Keck as well has taken a ton of damage off screen. It's going to make his life a lot more difficult. As Leaf is looking actually to play at the top of the blue. She does have to make noise breaking down that castle barricade, but that's still a great position for him to occupy.
Yeah, and not only does Marquette have a man disadvantage, but Keck is so low on health with players like this Blackbeard. It's going to be really difficult for them to have any really effective gunfights in an isolated position.
Yab's going to finish him off with a headshot, not even taking advantage of that low HP. As now we're going to the last minute here, Dokkaebi Call goes out so they can figure out where these last remaining defenders are. They're going to hack those cams as well to make all the information the defense has scary. As they start to make their move over towards Archives, Moth kills off Leaf as well. And the walls start to close in for the defense here. They don't have nearly enough of what they need to properly counter the advantage the attack has. But Toucan's gonna do his damnedest regardless, as he gets the first kill the defense needs to close this out, but Moth has his position read. As it's all left up to Hattie. But he's come face to face with that Blackbeard, and Moth yet again plays off it, kills him off, as Nighthawks take their third round this half.
Talk about a headache of utility Nighthawks bringing down that round. I mean, not only did you have a displacement utility like the nades and flashbangs, but you had a Sens, you had a Blackbeard staring you right in the face. I mean, that is just a position I do not envy whatsoever. And something that Marquette hasn't really been able to consistently deal with is Nighthawks bringing a lot of that execution utility. And again, I talked about how useful it is for these attacking teams to go into an execution with a man advantage, and on top of that, having a lot of utility to then push on to the defense. It's a round where even all the way back to that 3v5, even without the attacking utility, it was just not a round where Marquette had business winning. And to be fair, they didn't really try to make it for business winning.
And all the way down to the basement we go again. So we've seen, interestingly, I think from Nighthawks,
10 seconds remaining.
the same attempted attack twice. And it almost did work. As I would argue, what really came and bit them in the behind the last time was a couple of individual decisions that were made toward the late round that left retakes open for the defense for Marquette to take advantage of. So now we're really gonna get to see the culmination of all of that, the adaptation. I just gotta see where this goes before we see the teams switch roles.
I think Nighthawks in this position, I don't want to say they need a 4-2 split on the attack, but I just have a feeling in my gut they're going to really struggle. Hold on, I need to see if we have any. You have a DMR. You can open the hatch with a DMR. You do not need to use a can opener there. You're gonna not only waste that utility, but you also don't even get that hatch open. Again, it's small mistakes.
Doesn't Striker have a secondary shotty?
Oh, I don't know if he brought it. I mean, I would hope he did. Even if he didn't bring it, that's still a mistake in its own.
I mean, yeah, no, I agree, but it's just kind of, there are layers to this.
Yeah.
Like an onion. Or Shrek.
He does! He has it!
Oh my gosh. Well, now that that tomfoolery is out of the way, about half the round has gone by thus far. The defense have vacated that first floor, and now the attack looks to start opening things up around the site so they can really get into the site and try to work the space they need to get a plant down.
It's clear, Kudos. There's nobody in front of you. And again, another round where there's a lot of execution utility. You got 2 flashbangs, 4 smokes, and then the Candelas on Kudos. There's just so much to work with, and they also have a lot of time to work with.
Yeah, I mean, you got 50 whole seconds left. Brava's still causing some mayhem. We've seen a castle barricade placed on the coverage that Nighthawks have liked to lean into. Because now the drones are going out just to figure out where things are and what people are doing. And looks like Yab might go down as well, as he tried to swing a cack. And now, unless they can pick him up, which is unlikely considering the lack of time, they're just gonna have to work without him. But Moth, he drops down, he gets 2 picks even. The opener plus 1 more. As now the rest of the attack has to try to work their way in elsewhere. But look at this position from Imp. He's throwing a wrench into things. He is killed off, but the diffuser's in such an awkward spot. He can't get it through the wall. There's only 2 seconds left. It's on the bomb now, and they just have to kill him off. The rotate, not quite big enough, is what costs that round in the end.
I'm actually baffled, and this isn't a real mark. I'm not trying to say this is specifically a problem with both teams, but round after round, we've seen just one tiny thing cost an entire round. I mean, not being able to get that diffuser, that player, not only that player losing his life, but the player by double window that eventually got that trade that should have gotten the kill before that
Attackers need to locate
Tachanka
and
even
defuse
got the
bomb.
first initial pick there. It is just a situation where it is heartbreaking. I mean, just one swing onto that planter and your entire round is over. And they had a phenomenal setup, a phenomenal drop of 4v3, everything going in their way, and it just falls down to an inch.
That's crazy.
It really is.
I don't think there's much more analysis on that
10
as well.
seconds to go.
Just, man, that's crazy. Well, now that does bring us to
5 seconds left before insertion.
Nighthawks on the defense and Marquette on the attack.
Attackers must locate and defuse
And
the bomb.
you were kind of talking about theorizing that Marquette might struggle a little bit on the attack if they didn't secure that round, which they just did. We're seeing Leaf on one of his beloved shields again. I'm interested to see how these two teams play this, because of those small mistakes losing rounds has been universal for both teams here. How's that going to manifest now that we're swapped.
Yeah, we didn't really see any real heavy presence with the shield play this round. Getting that open area hatch open, they're just going for this quick sight hit. Yab, he needs to react in timely fashion. Yab, your vigil, you can just go through that lion charge, but they're just gonna go right in.
They're gonna go right in. They got the first pick as well. They get another one to boot. Atsu has to be more aggressive now, but there's a Jaeger with the flank, and he kills off Imp. And the Ash drops on top of him. Moth gets that pick as well. He's equalized that man count. Yab falls with him. A cascade of players down the lobby hatch. Although Hattie does get a pick onto Yab, the Chonka takes a second to reload his equipment, as Moth is just trying to exert some pressure. As Moth now has to take these fights on these players. The Blackbeard swings out. It ends up being Marquette in the end. As yet again, much like the first map, they start us off with a bang for their attacking half.
I mean, dude, like this game has been silly. I think you spoke about it going into this, that a lot of not only collegiate games but specifically in this meta, even games outside of collegiate, fall down to just silly plays because a lot of teams just force it to pure gunfights and going for a very quick execute, trying to take the defense off guard.
Defenders protect
Plan is the definition, is the setup. It's a formula for a silly round, and that's exactly what we saw there. But again, I mean, as soon as they got that control, they did a phenomenal job at setting up crossfires, making sure that they didn't give up points on the bomb site, didn't give up easy gunfights aside from the Ash on the Jaeger. Aside from that, they did a really good job at playing every advantage that was given to them.
Attackers have located a bomb.
I'm so glad we caught that. I'm so glad we put that
10 seconds left before
W unnamed. Shout out to unnamed.
real.
5 seconds remaining.
He may be unnamed, but he's in the game.
Attackers objective is
Although unnamed, he is a name in of itself. Which means he is not unnamed, because he is unnamed.
That's very true. I'm really curious. I'm really curious about this Maestro cam inside of lobby. My thinking is it's to get rid of those ace charges on the long hallway wall. Ace is rotating over, so it might actually work, and I don't think that Marquette has really spotted into this. Actually, no, he's not playing into it. That would have been cool to see. Go over, please. Yes! Yes!
So we might see this cam up a little bit.
No!
As right now it's actually just harassing a Blackbeard before getting EMP'd and probably shot. As again, we see Marquette want to go very, very quick, and Nighthawks want to stifle that as much as they can to prevent that pace from being comfortable. That's the route that Marquette wants to go for. Although they don't have the diffuser, it still looks like they just want to go for this. It's working out so far because a Keck gets a kill onto Yab. As they made their way onto the top of Spiral Stairs. Bender's still doing his thing, Keck doing his thing as well. That's the second of the round. Just playing from those windows, denying the rotations that are so important to the defenders.
No! No!
Alright, so now we're in a 5 versus 2. One player in recovery, but still recoverable nonetheless. Bossing at the top of Marble Stairs has to try to make something happen, but he doesn't have a good position to do it. Especially with him getting his second kill of the round. Everything's left up to Atsu, but he doesn't even get one because Hattie catches him off of the long angle. As Marquette University have taken 2 attacking rounds in a row now.
My deep gutted feeling that I just feel Nighthawks are going to struggle on the defense was right. And now, as I say that, I have willed it into existence that they're now going to get 2 rounds completely unanswered and even it out 5-5 if we're going throughout the past 2 maps. But again, it is really kind of a thing where Nighthawks just are not able to read into the trend of the round. That the majority of that push was over by spiral stairs that they were trying to go
Defenders,
for
protect your
that
bombs from
plant.
being defused
I mean,
by
there was a
attackers.
player still playing aggro over by stock when 2 people died on windows. You well know that there's a Blackbeard top spiral stairs because he just killed somebody, and there's a Maestro in sight who hopefully was giving calls, and yet that player in the one
Attackers
top
have discovered the
marble
location
or
of a
marble
bomb.
still didn't rotate over to support that player. It is just questionable at best.
Honestly, I like that description.
10 seconds left
Sketch is
before
another
insertion.
good one.
5 seconds left before
One
insertion.
of them is source on me. That's all I got.
Attackers
So now
have
I
moved to defuse the
really
bomb.
want to see things tightened up a little bit. I mean, really from both teams, I think, but more specifically from Nighthawks in this scenario, is they're kind of the ones who are really faltering a lot more on the defense than I think. I mean, at least than I thought they would. So it does look like they want to get aggressive early on here with the position that Yab has taken, although he's just going to have to get out very, very quickly here, and then probably just fall back to the site with his teleportation.
I mean, if they get rid of this cam, I don't want to say that this Scobos was used useless, but if they just leave this cam up and just have like a beacon of info on this push into spiral stairs, that's going to be a huge mistake for Marquette. And honestly, to be fair, it's a decision that a lot of attacking teams just kind of like, it's not really that much of a threat. We can just turn around and shoot them. We don't want to deal with it. But at the same time, any round where you give the info to Nighthawks when they're allowed to just play with that info is a very dangerous round at that.
Seeing a lot of good work being done onto the areas around the site by Marquette as they start to poke at the top of Spiral with the Blackbeard. Player inside of Elevator has to run away. That's Yab. He gets killed off. As now Sneaky is the next one. He gets 1 kill, but he's being pressured from all sides here. From the window and from the Blackbeard. A spot that's almost certainly a death sentence, but he's managing to hold on at least for a little bit before being killed off by a NECC. As he's remained dominant on those windows in these last couple rounds. He is finally killed off by Kudzo, however, who's trying to fight off this Blackbeard in close proximity. Just trying to hold on to this site as much as humanly possible. Although the wall next to him is soft, but Imp is downed actually, off screen before Leaf gets the kill. But everything's left up to Toucan now. 1 versus 2, 2 attackers down. Most likely going to be secured. Doesn't have the diffuser in hand either. So he has to try to walk up these spiral stairs. Isolate these 2 gunfights. Deceive anyone. Caught out of
15
position.
seconds remaining.
Get a little bit overzealous. But with only 15 seconds
seconds to
left,
go.
that's an unlikely
Attackers recover the
proposition.
diffuser.
Grabs the diffuser, gets killed off by Atsu because he looks the wrong way. And finally, Nighthawks find the solution they need. Pick up a defense.
I mean, again, that round, I do want to preface that wasn't necessarily a situation where one player made a mistake and it costed the round, but removing that Zofia on Windows, removing that back pressure on the bomb site, in my opinion, was the key difference from the round they won to the round they lost. Without having to worry about that player behind you, without having that cross, being able to just look right in front of you, deal with that. And then in part, because you don't have to worry about that crossfire over on the windows,
Attackers
the
need to
defense
locate
themselves
and
set up their
defuse as
own
many
crossfire,
bombs
being
as they
paired with the
can.
frost also in the bomb site, essentially making the actual push into the bomb site with that Blackbeard to try and get that first initial pick almost impossible without that Zofia on the rappel. And because they didn't make that change, because they played that attack the exact same way, Nighthawks just made small adaptations to eventually win it out.
Now that we've gone back to the basement, we'll see if they can continue those small adaptations.
10 seconds
Well, last
left
time,
before
granted,
insertion.
was a very aggressive rush that definitely caught
5 seconds
Nighthawks
left.
off guard. And there is still the potential for that to be a thing that happens this
Attackers
round.
must
Sleep
locate
is on that
the
blitz.
bomb.
Although the hope is at least the Nighthawks are going to be aware that's coming and be able to push back.
And, I mean, just props out to Moth. From map 2 to even on here, he has been the difference maker for Nighthawks. I mean, he has been, in a lot of rounds, the determining factor. If you are able to get rid of Moth very early on, we saw that on Night Haven Labs, continuously losing those opening picks eventually did cost them. But when Nighthawks are able to put him in a position to have success, 9 times out of 10, they go on to win the round. I think that's something that's very crucial. There are two options there. Either one, you continue to put him in positions to have success, or you have a different strategy or different players show up behind him.
Yeah, he has kind of been carrying this course alone on this map at least, which is just not really a thing that is viable for Siege, especially on a map like Tank. So they do need to find someone else to have success with him, or his impact to be fully realized here. So it looks like Marquette have kind of figured out that the first floor is clear. They're now poking at the basement a little bit, as the next step's just going to be to open things up so they can get onto the site and work a plans.
That is so funny. I've seen that Aruni on that hatch so many times. Oh, Vigil's just completely alone. That is a horrible play by Yab that he just allowed for himself to be ISO'd. And potentially could also ISO this player trying to make his way up top blue stairs, but Leaf is so low on health that just one little pinch from Moth could take him off, but Moth's gonna rotate back down to the bomb site before he gets an opportunity to even take the gunfight with that place.
Strategy for the defense now is just going to be to fall back behind the smoke grenades, frost mats, the Rooney gates, and Goyo canisters that are set up around the site. Although, which is going to be thrown out to counter that specifically, as Kudzo, he's so powerful now in these last 30 seconds, he can deny that space almost completely. Which is going to make the job of Toucan much more difficult, as he has to get in here and work a plant. With there being still another smoke grenade to deny this, he's going to have to run far into the bomb site. Drops are coming out. Atsu gets the pick onto that. Leaf has to occupy the space at low health, but Atsu is doing such a good job in the killing department. And the last couple kills of the attack don't matter, because the timer runs out.
Ali, do you remember what I said when Marquette was up 5-3? If you don't, I'll remind you. I'll remind everybody else in Twitch chat. I said going up 5-3 that this was a position where the Nighthawks were going to claw back with 2 unanswered rounds, completely figuring out Marquette, because that's what happened both teams every single round, and it's happened again on Bank, and it's just down to the simple fact that the first round up top inside of CO, they didn't change too much in their overall execution, which eventually led to Nighthawks just changing small little things and just countering Marquette because they were going up against the exact same attack. In that round, just working way too slow on that attack, and they were given a lot of control, especially inside of open area, and even were able to get an additional pick. They could have gotten that pick onto the smoke inside of blue, but they just were too slow and didn't have the confidence to react on it in time. And because of it, it forced them into a really uncomfortable execution that Nighthawks were more than well prepared to deny.
10 seconds left.
It's like I talked about.
5
earlier
seconds
on
to insertion.
in this map, Bank is often a map
Attackers
that is
objective
dictated
is
by
to defuse a
steps,
bomb.
and they need to be completed not only cohesively with everyone working together, but efficiently. So you have the time for the step that follows. And the second half of that formula fell apart for Marquette in that last round, which allowed for things like I talked about, the go canisters, the smoke canisters, and the zombie barricades as well, to all have so much more impact than they would have if Marquette had time. That being said, though, we're now almost a minute into round number 11, and Toucan's gotten the kill onto Moth, which is huge, and there's still setup going on for the defense.
User has been dropped.
C4, but it's actually going to be sneaky to get that answer back. And losing a Blackbeard with no other shield operator on board for the attack is absolutely a huge loss. But to be fair on how Moth has been playing today and the lack of success of his additional supporting staff, honestly, it's pretty much even break.
Well, Kudzo's undetected on the top floor, and he gets a kill onto a Keck, who, being the Zofia, just has a really solid amount of utility that the attack is definitely going to miss.
Attackers recover
It's
the
also
bomb
down the
diffuser.
diffuser, or he has it, but the diffuser is down. There's still vertical play being held by the defenders. They're not giving the space up just because there was a ramp thrown at it, as their goal is to, like last round, just let Marquette waste their own time.
Attackers drop the diffuser.
Again, I mean, it's a situation where you've lost that player. There is no real hurry
Attackers recovered the
to
diffuser.
get an answer, to get any real map control, and you're yet again just going to force yourself into a really difficult and uncomfortable execution, not only with a man disadvantage, but no real info on these last 4 defender positions.
Trying to remedy that with a drone. It looks like Imp is wanting to go for a potential drop here. The other two are outside of the printer window. That might just smoke this off and sprint in. That's exactly what happens, actually. And that's going to prompt Sneaky to take a very aggressive position, but Imp reads into it. And he gets that kill. That equalizes things. That means that Yab is going to get aggressive on this top floor. Try to get the pick onto him. Atsu gets a pick of his own, but Imp refrags it. The diffuser's on the ground, being planted. As it's going to be Kudzo to try to go for it. The diffuser gets planted, but Imp protects it. As Marquette find their way back in and find an answer to the previous 2 rounds.
It's taken me a while to notice, but that trend of Moth dying as the entry pick, there's no other consistent closer. I mean, whether it be just a player not having the mechanical capabilities or players making very crucial mistakes. I think that's also another thing that I haven't fully explained. We've talked about how players can make an individual mistake and it will cost the entire round, but that's because they make the mistakes at probably one of the most crucial points in the round. It's not like a player dies spawn peeking in the early round and that's why they lost the round. It's whether it be a planter or somebody watching the vertical or somebody that in that round specifically going to try and take the vertical. If they killed that ram, that's the round over. That is a 2v1 on the planter, 1 right in front of him, and then 1 below on his vertical. That is a round where that planter is not going to win it, but because they just didn't win that gunfight, making a mistake in that 1v1 engagement essentially costed a winning opportunity.
Looks like they've gone back to that same site, which
10
I think it makes
seconds
sense.
Yeah.
Top floor hasn't been really successful
5
enough
seconds
to
to go.
justify going back.
Attackers have
And
located the
basement is
bomb.
closed.
Attackers are heading out to defuse the
So you don't really want to risk things too much when your opponents are on match point and have the potential to lock out the series in its entirety right here.
They don't have hard breach. They didn't read into the hatch inside it, so they can't go for default on stock. Wait, that might actually cost them the round, because especially with how Marquette has been playing, going for a very repetitive, not only attacks, but executions, they have to completely change the round. And to be fair, how they're playing over in main lobby, it does look like they're trying to go for a relatively different take. But, I mean, the walls, they're still reinforced. It is still going to be a headache. It doesn't matter if you go from above or if you go horizontal. It is still going to be a headache just trying to get into this bomb site. And on a map like Bank, that is a huge mystery.
Yeah, I mean, Hardbridge is just default on Bank. I would say it's very strange that they don't have it at all. It means this lineup is going to have to rely a lot on dragging out in order to have the proper impact that it wants. They still have a CAC playing these windows, although the defense has vacated a lot of the presence that would allow him to get concrete kills. But had he kills off Moth, that's a huge opening kill for Marquette. So now they're looking to pressure up these last couple players. If they figure out that Yab is inside of stock alone, that could be lights out.
I mean, there's no hatch. This guy's dead. Sure, okay, you know what, actually, I like this from Sneaky. If he can get that timed play, but with a Blackbeard, he's more than likely going to march on. It doesn't even look like they're aware of him. Again, just completely circumventing that player, allowing for him to just boil in that position, allowing for his position to have more use the longer you go on in this round. That could be a very crucial mistake. Oh.
Yab does, in fact, get a pick, but he is refragged immediately by Leaf. But it was one of the heroes of last round, and he's fallen completely by the wayside now, as they need to get this pick onto Watsu, and there's so little time left to do that and get into the bomb site. Watsu could win the round on his own here, so he has to try to fight this Blackbeard, but Hattie kills him off. That'd be a quick time of him considering the circumstances. Now they have to funnel into the site, but Sneaky over peaks. It's all left up to Kudzo. He's the only thing standing between Marquette and winning the series 2-1. Marquette University blows it out versus the Nova Nighthawks.
Who needs a hard breach when all you got to do is kill them off? I mean, really. It is... I can't even say worrying because they're out, but I mean, that is their Achilles heel. They died and lived on Moth. If he was alive, he was a phenomenal closer round in and round out. But if you lost him in the early engagement, which 9 times out of 10 he was going to be that entry player, you're going to fall short. And that's exactly what they do, falling short in max regulation. Again, yet another one of my fortunes being foretold.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of that game just went in very odd directions, and sometimes it would just kind of feel like it would come down to a decision that we'd see. And obviously, it's Siege, it's more complicated than that. There are a series of decisions that lead to just what the observer catches, which is why many leagues will have multiple observers. Cool bug fact. But in this case, with what we see, there are a lot of very egregious mistakes that are committed by both sides that really do need to be tightened up. Although regardless, congratulations to Marquette. Even if it was a grueling series, they did still win it. And the finals were on, let me check myself here before I give you the incorrect information.
Yeah.
Right now, the finals are scheduled for May 7th, Wednesday. So there is about a week for them to clean things up a little bit, body view this, scrim things out, and then go into the finals with a vengeance.
We were given a lot of teams. Let me check the bracket for y'all. So Pace or New Mexico State are the 2 options for the grand final. The 8th or 4th seed. That's a series that is really interesting because the Crimsons actually beat the number 1 seed as being an 8th seed. That's actually a really interesting matchup there.
I think I certainly do agree there, although it's a matchup for another time, perhaps, as my producer is screaming into my ear, so I will close things out here. Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this, we got some Rocket League for you tomorrow, which personally is one of my favorite esports to spectate, is even not being good at the game. it's just entertaining. Like, it's soccer with cars. What is there not to love? So make sure you tune into that same channel. Brand new set of amazing casters. Although for Goose, myself, Tom Tillite, and NM Gamer, it's going to be it for tonight.
Oh, no. There's something in there, dude. Just leave it.
Are you kidding me?
We'll just head to the house. Just leave it.
The hell with that.
Ah, yeah, there's something in there. Ah!
Want one?
Thank you.
It was worth it.
Oh, man, this is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Hey, man, grab me a meat stick.
I think I can reach it if I just a little more. Just let me go a little. I can't. Just a little more. I almost got it. Careful! Oh God! No, come on, just reach. Just grab my hand. Grab my hand.
Give me the meat stick. This other hand's closer. The one with the stick is